3%. Okay. That is enough woke, sir. You are getting your daily intake of wokeness. Okay. It is 8 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We this impromptu, half an hour to spare. The part two. We've been trying to get part two going for the past week and a bit now, and Christmas and holidays got in the way. And we are having Southpaw join us soon, as soon as he gets back from his daily merriment of New Year's Eve fun times. And we're going to have a wonderful story to tell after that. So thank you for joining us. We're in part two of Mr. Nevell, the YouTuber, telling us that there is a guide to The Last Jedi for every Star Wars out there fan who thinks, hey, you know what, maybe I've been watching movies wrong, and he's gonna show us the right way to do so. So it's probably nothing we haven't heard before. Yeah, remember we're always doing this from the vantage of we've watched The Last Jedi, we haven't seen, or at least we're feigning our ignorance of what happens to all these characters in the next movie. So we have to keep it from that perspective as well. This was released, I think, a few weeks ago. So we have to, give them the benefit of the doubt that his intentions were hopeful and optimistic. And hey, guys, it's just a movie, right? We just got to appreciate it for what it is. Yeah, they're just these things you watch and you forget it. It's not a big deal. It's no one cares. Yeah. Unless you're representing, of course, the Mary Sue trope, then it's okay. That's perfectly fine. You can just totally use that. Okay, I can crank you up. How's that? All right, I'm seeing about half feed from you guys. All right, let's try leaving the call. I can try this one more time. It's not a big deal. And let me go to my settings. Oh, joy. Everything looks good. Output. Let's try that. Go ahead and talk, guys.
Hello. Last Jedi is a bad movie.
Well, okay, let's try this again.
If no one can hear us, we can say all.
Okay, I'm gonna load this up one more time. Very quiet from Evan. Interesting. That does help. Yes, thank you. I. That's fine. I can hear you great. Okay, it's fixed. Yay! Thank you, guys. Now it's back to no sound. Wait a second. What happened there, guy? Come on, give us a consensus here. So, hey, Southpaw, we could hear. I could hear you. All right, so we're back on the wonderful video we were working with like 2 weeks ago, if you guys can remember it. But basically, all the defenses of The Last Jedi that we've heard before in a nice, elegant, well cut together And guys, come on. You could only hear me. Is that how it goes again? Can anyone else talk? I can hear you guys just fine, so. Oh, that's good. Okay, well, let me try one more time. I can stop the stream and start again and make sure that's working. Let me see if my desktop audio is working okay. Let's try that. Guys can go ahead and talk. Oh, there's a. Oh, wow. You guys are geniuses. Look at that. All right, let's try that.
Okay. Hello?
Hello there.
Wow, that is
Hello.
much better. Okay.
So is that showing up on stream?
Yeah, the way this works is on OBS is that I have my own audio input, then I have my desktop audio, and you guys are like in the red, so you're like loud.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so it's looking fine. Like, am I don't know. Chat, how is it?
Apparently, we're still very quiet.
Wow. Okay.
Well, that
Yeah.
very quiet has been up there for a little bit.
New comments, how are we guys?
Yeah, not
Audio
to mention
good?
that
Better?
they probably they haven't gotten to the part where we're talking loudly. Yep, fixed. Loud now,
Loud
but I
now,
can
fixed.
turn it.
If it's too
Loud
loud,
now.
yeah,
Now we're too loud.
it is very loud.
You might want to go ahead and lower a little bit.
Okay.
Just
No, it might be too loud
Maybe
before
it's
saying
overcorrect.
it, no.
Now it might be too loud.
Okay, we'll put you a little lower. You're 150 gain. All right, that's pretty decent. Not that I'm some sound engineer working in frickin' Discord, but you know, it's looking better. All right, I think we've got our sound problems fixed. Thanks, guys, for the feedback there. It's always a joy connecting our PC speaker to my dangling microphone that I don't know how to plug in. But looking good. We all set?
Well, it sounds like we missed a top-notch rant from LiteratureDevil before the mic issues and audio issues came to your attention. So what were we talking about, Devil?
Let's see here. It was, I forget what we were talking about, actually. There's something about the Emperor, something, the usual stuff.
Because I think that's where the portion we're in is he's saying like Snoke and the Emperor are the same person. It's like everyone pulls that argument that whataboutism. It's like, oh man. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're talking about canon
like that.
and how the defenders of the Last Jedi have to disregard canon and disregard continuity and see that as unimportant. And if you are really into continuity, as most people are, as is the case for thousands of years, as is the tradition of storytelling, then you are a whiny, nerdy man baby, and you just take these things way too seriously. You should be cool and not care about anything, have a meaningless life, and be completely nihilistic. That's what the real adults do. Real adults are miserable 24/7.
Just in case this is all sarcasm, if you guys take any creative writing courses, any decent teacher will tell you continuity is king. You need to know what the hell you're talking about. You don't forget what you wrote on chapter 1 when you start chapter 2. Okay? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get going.
I will kill you with the crudest stroke. But first, let me tell you about...
Okay, pause right now. This is something that everyone does. He's pulling out the arguments everyone does. Everyone says if you wanted to know Snoke's backstory, then you wanted this massive, tedious exposition dump. It didn't have to be like this.
It
You
could
could
have been,
have had some really good dialogue between him and Kylo.
Yeah.
It would have taken one short scene, not even a whole scene, it's a few sentences, and we would have been satisfied. It doesn't take much. I say this all the
Yeah.
time. It doesn't take much to satisfy what has been what's wrong with these movies, the plot holes. It just takes maybe a few lines of dialogue at the very least.
And you know what? This whole joke that he's doing, I actually would have preferred this. I would have preferred anything from Snoke to give us some sort of backstory, some context, some history, something to say, hey, this guy has a life. He did stuff and stuff happened and now he's this way. It's like, thank you, story.
Like, I mean, look at Snoke. He looks tortured and like he's been through some stuff. It looks like he would have an interesting backstory, but he has none.
Wouldn't that have been in a funny context? Like he's talking about, hey, when I was about 27, I killed my first puppy. You're like, what? And then it cuts to like a ship blowing up in the background or whatever. It's like, whoa.
And he's stealing a bunch of candy from babies while he's at
Yeah,
it.
I would have loved something. That would have been funny. It would have been entertaining at least.
Yeah, a good writer can actually reveal a lot about a character through like just a little bit of dialogue. You don't have to go on some awkward exposition dump to. You can actually like with something like Snoke and Kylo's relationship. You can absolutely feel it across the story. See why people assumed that we were going to have why we were wanting Snoke to reveal everything in just this one scene. Like we would have, I'm pretty sure that we all would have had issues with that if they approach, right?
I believe so.
And he did this with Luke too, where he was saying if you didn't like Luke's position in the film, then you just wanted him to be like slashing down villains. You just wanted him to be like a superhero. It's the false dichotomy. Tons of people do this. They say it was one way or the other, and we got the better version. It's like there are infinite possibilities when you're writing a story.
We got one of the worst versions, I think. They had good ideas, but they carried it out in a terrible and kind of like amateurish way.
Yeah, this is why I tend to see Ryan Johnson as a rather creative fellow. He just doesn't know how to do the things he wants. And that's when you need an editor, you need someone or an expert, like in either directing or cinematography or pacing, or just a writer to say, hey, okay, you want this guy to have this mysterious backstory that came out of nowhere. Okay, great, you can do that. Guess what? You still have to reveal something about where he came from so that we can wrap our head around how he got here. That's all you have to do. You can shroud that in mystery. You can lampshade it later on. You can allude to it. But something, as opposed to magical dude who's super powerful who came out of nowhere and then he dies. You can't really give us that. It doesn't work.
Mission Impossible Fallout does a really good job with telling the main villain's motivation through one scene when and like when you're first watching it, if you have spoiled for you, then you're not entirely sure if he's talking about the villain. But have we all seen this movie that I'm talking about here?
I actually haven't, no.
You have?
Stuff. He said he hasn't.
Oh, he hasn't. Okay. Well, I feel like I can't really go into detail on it then because I don't want to. Well, it's basically it's a scene where you've got two characters that are meeting up, and one of them is the syndicates, the apostles, right? Who are like these elite spies that have turned into anarchist terrorists, and saying that these people were they believed in a cause and turned out to be a lie. Then they turned on their masters, and he's describing a certain character, named them, and what he's saying actually applies to himself. So with this one scene, we're at the bad guy's motivation. However, at the time, you don't know that that's actually the bad guy talking about himself, about the guy that he's framing. So then when you revisit the movie, you're like, oh, okay, so that was his motivation, basically. And the way that it's set up, like he doesn't talk about the exact experience that he had. So all that you have is like a basic why he's doing what he's doing.
even a basic plot like revenge or some sort of I desire power, some mention of what exactly is doing and why is has to be accepted by the general audience as a basic plot like, oh, he's doing this because he's a power monger, he's an usurper, he wants XYZ. Great. Fine. That's enough. Just that's enough for me to get from A to F because we jumped a bunch of plots or plot points that the other movie did not bother to even address. So,
well, this is the problem with mystery box. They think that the mystery around the character is more interesting than the in-universe context of the character. I think
it's kind of like
so uninteresting. Go ahead.
Kind of like the same idea as, it's not the end of the journey. It's the journey that you really want to watch. It's kind of the mystery version of that. It's the mystery that you really want to feel be excited about. The answer doesn't matter. It's the mystery that you want to feel excited about. It doesn't work if it's an essential mystery. Like if you need the mystery that's set up as something you need to know, like Rey's heritage or Snoke's backstory. It's like, oh, it's mysterious. It only works with something that's that doesn't really matter in the long run, kind of like that suitcase from Pulp Fiction. What's inside doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was about to say Winston Wolfe is also a mysterious character in Pulp Fiction, and like he has like a mysterious backstory. We don't know much about him, but that's intriguing, and
we don't
it's
really
not necessarily
know because he's there to do a job, and we don't really know. All we need to know is that he's really good at what he does, and that he's capable of doing what needs to be done.
Yeah, we don't need to see like every single character's backstory in anything, and not even. And there's even some cases where the antagonists of a story have a backstory that's kind of vague or unclear or something. For instance, Joker from Dark Knight. We didn't get a prequel with him explaining why he is the way he is. Now there's clues that sort of infer that he was a soldier, given he knows how to.
Yeah, I really like that fan theory.
Use like RPGs, and he has this very specific getting blown up and everything. Like that's a very plausible fan theory. It's just a theory. It's not confirmed by the movie, but there's nothing that the movie really either. So it's a viable theory, and ultimately, I don't actually know the Joker's backstory in that movie.
The difference is
it doesn't really care. I mean, no one really cares. It doesn't really matter. It's
we understand what he's trying to do and why. The problem is the motivation is one of insanity. So I really hate to have characters that are like, oh, he can get away with it because he's crazy. It's like, okay, but there's different flavors of crazy. You can't just be a lunatic for the sake of it. You have to actually have an understanding of why this person's being nuts. And you do that through his actions and his descriptions of the plot. He doesn't have to say, I'm crazy because of XYZ, but we learn about Joker as the story progresses, and he's so interested in this one thing, which is chaos. He loves this idea, and he'll put a bullet through his head if that serves chaos. He's right there sitting next to Harvey Dent, about to do that.
Well, yeah.
So he's like all for it. He's like, yeah, this is what I serve. So we get that he serves something greater than the idea of I'm crazy. I want this crazy concept that's hard to grasp, and everything I do on this earth is just sort of a means to an end. And that's fine. We can get around that because it's not a stupid form of crazy. It's a more sophisticated form of mysterious crazy.
Oh, Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old to know backstory, but compelling.
Yeah, he's really compelling. One of my favorite characters.
Have you seen? Have any of you guys seen
Go on.
the show of Fargo?
The TV show? No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Not the TV show. No.
There's a very Anton Chigurh like character in the first season. Lorne Malvo. He's played by Billy Bob Thornton, and he's a very mysterious character as well. Like you don't know what his backstory is, but he's still a really.
Tapes are such a perfect like form of mystery that we like don't get to know all that much about, but yeah, like there's hints as to like why he does the things, but like you get why he does the things he does. It's like it's almost like a hobby for him. That's why he just likes like destroying like like the people's lives and destroying things that are like around him. He's like a virus. So
he'll randomly tell like an abused hotel employee, like he'll convince him to go piss in his boss's like gas tank, and then he'll call the hotel so that the boss sees their gas tank. Like that's just what he does. He gets personal enjoyment out of ruining everyone's lives.
That's such a good season of television, by the way. Everyone watched Fargo season 1. It's so good.
Yes.
Well, some television is pretty good. We have to go back to The Last Jedi, guys, so let's see what we have.
All right. Let's get his joking before I need to give my backstory of all this. Oh, whatever.
Just lost our spot.
Jumped ahead to 2027 for me.
Yeah. I think we were 14.
You've never had Roba Pie until you've had Keldabe Roba Pie. Not yet, child. We haven't even gotten to my quinceanera yet.
Ray spent the
see all those jokes he made. I'm like, yes, I want that. Give me something, please.
Now he has personality. Now we can see kind of what he's been through. I mean, just the idea of Snoke having a quinceanera is more backstory than we get in the movie, and it's really compelling.
Yeah,
relatively speaking.
It didn't have to be that way for 1. For 2, literally anything would be better than just nothing. And it ignores the entire problem in the first place, which is that he's like the only connective which can fill in for the massive gap in world building between the films. That's the problem. Like, people treat Snoke like he takes place in a vacuum. It's like he's the connective to explain how the First Order came to power and like why they like somehow have the money to build the Starkiller base. Like, there's so much that just like hinges on him existing.
Yeah, it's a huge plot hole. I mean, but the big difference between someone like the Joker and Anton Chigurh and Snoke is that Anton Chigurh and the Joker get their compelling nature from their actions and what drives them. We need with Snoke, Joker and Anton Chigurh did not build an entire empire out of what was what was remaining of a destroyed empire from the previous book or something. Snoke did that. The empire was destroyed. Now it's back in the form of the First Order. How did that happen? Why did that happen? And who's Snoke? And what did he do? And what kind of talents did he provide that brought the remnants of the Empire together into the First Order? We need to know these things for the story to kind of work. Otherwise, there's no question. There's questions being asked, but no answers being provided. Answers we need to know.
And it's not just, hey, where'd this whole army come from? Why are there new versions of Star Destroyers or new versions of this or that? Like, that's a whole other technological thing that doesn't get answered. And it's kind of weird because in Star Wars, even in the older games where they take place like hundreds of years before, thousands of years before, technology is kind of the same.
It's really evolved.
It hasn't evolved. Like, it has changed, but it's really the same. So it looks a little bit different. It reacts a bit slowly. But there's other things that need to go on in the world for us to wrap our heads around, and we still don't get that. So you could hire all the technical designers and all the new puppeteers you want, but if you don't actually fill in the blanks from the last movie, or at least the last movie in continuity, which was 20, 30 years ago, you're like, oh, okay, so X-Wings are still a thing. Okay, great. What? Like, does that make them better, faster? Is Poe like even more better than all the other previous starfighters? Like, there's all these questions that pop up that aren't really too important to continuity, but when you start talking about, oh, here's a brand new empire that came out of nowhere, gotta lay the groundwork for that. You can't just pull it out of nothing.
Yeah, you kind of need to know where that came from. Empire, which is pretty much the First Order. The last time we saw them, they were destroyed and scattered. That was the entire point of the Return of the Jedi, that the Empire was conquered. So how do they come back to power? And how do they build this gigantic shotgun version of the Death Star?
Oh, that's great. That's I mean, that's kind of the premise that even Lucas has. Like, oh, we're going to build a second Death Star because we have no other ideas. And then what happens in Episode 7? Oh, it's an even bigger Death. It's like, come on, guys. What
That's kind of what bad guys in Star Wars kind of do, apparently.
I know,
They
and
build
after
gigantic death machines.
I mean, after the Last Jedi,
Like,
it's like
how do they?
you don't need
Go on.
any more Death Stars. You just need a bunch of rocks, strap some lightspeed ramming hyperdrives on them, and there you go. You're going to annihilate a planet, no problem. So all this technology.
You guys all seen Rise of Skywalker yet, or
No.
have you seen it?
I mean, the
Oh, man,
Emperor
there's-
makes a fleet of infinite ships.
And there's a line in there which is just insanity on the whole attaching rocks, because everyone would be doing that after the Last Jedi, like if we consider the Last Jedi canon. But
Yeah, Smudboy, do you want to know what their little throwaway line is for the Holdo maneuver?
The Holdo maneuver? Oh, that's the
yeah, they
lightspeed.
actually call it that.
They
I
they actually call it the Holdo maneuver.
Because no one has ever thought of this in the history of Star Wars, apparently.
Yeah, so here's the interesting thing. So in The Last Jedi, when Holdo like turns the Raddus towards the First Order fleet, they start figuring out what she's going to do, and they start panicking, right? Like Hux and the other officer next to him, they're like, "Holy shit, she's going to like lightspeed ram us." Okay, so, well, yeah, and then in Episode 9, Dominic Monaghan plays some random guy who suggests, like for their attack on the Star Destroyer fleet, that they just do a couple of Holdo maneuvers. And it was either Finn or Poe who says, Evan, do you remember if it was, or LiteratureDevil?
I think it was Finn. I could be wrong.
It was Finn? Okay. Yeah, so Finn then says, that's a 1 in a million shot.
Really?
Yes.
Under what logic and premise?
They don't explain. They don't
They
explain.
just say it's a 1 in a million shot.
Okay. One thing you have to know going into the Rise of Skywalker is don't expect anything to be answered. They're just going to lay a bunch of stuff at your feet, and if you ask questions, you're going to be disappointed. They don't answer anything, not one thing. So
Just consume
turn your brain off.
product and then
Just
get
consume
excited
product.
for next product.
Oh, dear. Okay, well, that's a load, in case you guys don't know. The basic idea of traveling in space, you go from point A to point B in vector math. It's very basic. And in Star Wars, they had a whole calculation saying, okay, if I want to get to point A to point B really fast, very far distance, I need a computer to calculate what's between there so I don't ram through a planet or a star or something, because you're going really, really fast. But if your distance is a few thousand kilometers, I mean, and your target is a planet, there's not really a room for error. You're kind of just, I can see the planet just in that general direction. We can ram into planet and destroy planet with the force of a 1,000,000-ton bomb. So, not hard to do. But hey, death lasers, right? Those are cool.
Previous film obsessed with finding answers to who she is,
For my family. They'll be back.
and doesn't find any when she arrives at Luke's island. The important thing for her character at this point isn't the answer, it's breaking her dependence on it.
It's your greatest weakness. Looking for them everywhere. In Han Solo, now in Skywalker.
In her desperation, she even turns to the dark side.
You went straight to the dark. It offered something you need.
No, she doesn't. She just explores the island.
She cracks the earth because Luke is the best mentor ever.
Luke.
And she immediately learns how to rock planets.
Yeah, Luke
after
just
Luke
gets
says, "Hey, breathe
pissed
for a little bit."
because it's Luke is going to get pissed because she did something he didn't like that he never explained to her. Oh, by the way, there's this thing called the dark side. Don't do that. Oh, you did that. Oh, I hate you now. It's like, thanks, Luke. That's great. Wonderful
She
story.
just learned about the Force yesterday. You give her a break, okay?
Yeah, he didn't even want to teach her, and then he's going to. Then he didn't bother to explain the dark side, and she just goes exploring on her own. It's like, thanks. That's great.
Then she beats up Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, that's her training. Fantastic. It's great.
Let me see them. You didn't even try to stop yourself.
She's forced to accept that there isn't an easy answer that will solve everything, and that she has to determine who she is completely by herself. Kylo Ren is in a similar position. They've both...
But she never does. She gets told who she is. She's Palpatine's granddaughter. And she's told that by other people. She never figures it out.
It's fine.
And apparently her only weakness is not knowing who she is and wanting to learn who she is. Her only weakness doesn't really drag her down any. It doesn't hurt her any. It just pushes her out in the universe and sparks her on an adventure.
it's fine that the character doesn't get what they want in discovering their identity or whatever thing internally they need. That's fine. But the audience is a whole other story. The audience needs to know where they're coming from to explain her Mary Sue nature, or else she's still a Mary Sue. We have to understand where this ability of hers originated, because we have lore telling us that Jedi or Sith or whomever with Force powers need to train from really, really young until they're like teenagers to adults, to young adults, to even do some of it, even a fraction of the things which she can do. And this is the whole problem with the story. She essentially learns of her powers and masters them within days, which
Yes.
is ridiculous.
Well, they try to fix this in Rise of Skywalker too. They try to fix it. They don't.
Well, the other thing to this is that when you're focusing so much on her backstory and trying to go like, oh yeah, who is Rey? Who is this mysterious person? And then you're going to tell us, she's nobody. Lol. Like, okay, you're trolling us here. Like you're trying to lure us with this little mystery and like, oh, actually, this doesn't matter.
But that's the sad thing with The Last Jedi is everything amounts to nothing. Every explanation is either dropped or forgotten, or just going, yeah, it doesn't mean it means something else. But like with Rose and her nonsensical philosophy on war, it's like, Rose, that doesn't make any sense. How could you possibly say this and come to this conclusion in war unless you're delirious or drunk? Like, where did that solution come from? No military commander would be like, hey, you know what? Let's just not hurt our enemy, and just play defensively and never attack. It's like, no, Rose, that's not how this works.
Plot threads that could have been interesting in the sequel trilogy frequently turn out to be red herrings. Have you noticed that?
I think it's exactly what kind of happens. Also, they do try to explain her Mary Sue nature, but it's really funny in The Rise of Skywalker because they try to make her all of a sudden clumsy in the Force, where she's really, really powerful, but she's suddenly in the third movie has become clumsy with her powers. But the thing is, she doesn't pay any consequences for those. Like they say, she accidentally kills Chewbacca, and with her because she suddenly surges in
she kills
power.
Chewbacca.
But she doesn't. She doesn't though. She doesn't though. He suddenly
Holy
she
shit.
thinks she's using the Force to bring back a transport that supposedly had Chewbacca on it. She gets mad and uses Force lightning, blows it up, and Chewbacca is magically alive because there was a magical second transport we never got to see.
So cheap.
That happens throughout the entire movie. Every time something bad happens, the consequences are reversed. There is no consequences.
Rose often does her own thing like 5 times, and she never faces any consequences for it. Like she steals like that boat and like rides on like 500 feet waves, and
I'm going to go ahead and link. So, Smudboy, I said I wanted to go over this at some point during the stream, but there's this website that I use a lot called TV Tropes. It's a very useful website when you're like a writer.
I spend way too much time on TV Tropes.
so there's the. I've sent a link in the chat. This is the TV Tropes page for common Mary Sue traits, and I have screen caps that I'm going to go ahead and just read out. These are all things that I read. I'm like, wow, that sounds just like Rey. I'm going to screen cap that. So are we ready? These are traits that TV Tropes says are common Mary Sue traits. They say, hold on. Even if a character has quite a number of the traits described below, Mary Sue-ness can still be averted by a good enough explanation for why they're there. Some female characters may seem overpowered and a bit too good to be true on paper, but when placed in context, they can be well-developed three-dimensional characters. It's when a trait exists more to make somebody stand out than to develop them as a character that it starts going into Mary Sue territory, unless it's played for laughs. Alternatively, you may feel as if the writer is frantically trying to justify a trait to themselves and the reader. So that's a good disclaimer to read before I hit this, but all right. So under, because there's several folders, so under personality, we have what personality? The typical Mary Sue doesn't have one because she isn't meant to be a character. Rather, she's an entity by which the author makes cool stuff happen. She's thus not defined by her personality, but rather by her special powers, fantastic romances, and random acts of heroism. Does that sound familiar to anyone in here?
Sounds kind of like Rey.
Yeah. What little personality a Mary Sue has isn't as important as how other characters react to it. No matter how shy or socially awkward Mary Sue is supposed to be, like, I don't know, maybe a junk scavenger in Jakku who, never had parents, other characters will be inexplicably drawn to her. All of her ideas are brilliant, all of her jokes are funny, and all of her advice is spot on. People will trust her implicitly, even more than they trust their families, significant others, or closest friends. I mean, maybe she'll be the one that Leia will go to hug instead of Chewbacca after Chewbacca's best friend dies.
Yeah, all that is exactly Rey.
Anyone who doesn't react to her this way is usually portrayed as evil or stupid. She doesn't have to do anything to deserve this treatment. She's an impossibly good person because the author says she is. There's more. But does it, like, if anyone wants to cut in to say something, feel free.
There's a whole thing about the SJW Mary Sue these days, and it's constant emotional validation, which I'm not really sure if it's in that list, but it might be. But that's something that has come to the surface, and that happens in Rise of Skywalker. Everyone is always telling Rey how awesome she is. I think Finn says, Finn or Poe says at the very beginning, "You're our strongest fighter. We need you in the front lines." And that random lady who I kind of like that new character against my own better judgment.
Oh, Zori Bliss.
The one with the armor and stuff. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know any of these new Star Wars people's names, but she was kind of likable. They actually wrote her like a human being. But even when she fought Rey and then Rey beat her, she goes. She being a standoffish, kind of closed, really badass character, says, "I don't know. I know you don't care, but you're." She says kind of something along the lines of, "I know you don't care, but you're awesome." Like, really?
I think she
You're
says,
not gonna
"I
hide
like
it
you" or
anymore.
something.
Yeah, I like you. She pretty much says you're awesome. You're awesome. It's like having a what's his name, a Mad Max who spoke barely any lines in his own movie just come out and say, "I like you," or Thor saying, "I like this." It's constant emotional validation, and it stops the movie to do so, and it's really out of character in most parts.
It's totally a thing that a badass like Zori Bliss would say after getting her ass beat. She's extremely persuasive. Everyone finds her opinions to be better than their own, regardless of the actual content of her supposedly awesome arguments. This is especially common in an author tract. It's also particularly jarring when characters who are usually very stubborn immediately take her side. Are there any instances of that in the sequel trilogy with Rey?
Stubborn,
taking her side? What do you mean?
Aside from her learning how to use Force Persuade out of nowhere, no, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you know what?
I don't think there's anyone who's stubborn against her.
That might have just been part of the screen cap. Like I didn't trim these, so bear with me there. She's a friend to all living things and an all-loving hero. Although the other characters are nowhere near as awesome as she is, she will forgive them for all their imperfections. She's willing to risk her own safety to save another person, even people she just met. That's her with Kylo and Spades.
That's true.
She gave herself up to Snoke to save him. Yeah,
and BB-8.
She gives up some of her life forces to heal that worm thing in the third movie. Yeah.
This is such a Mary Sue classic trait that authors are starting to catch on, and it's gradually becoming less common. Well, here it is, back in full force. She's incorruptible, so much so that she may be unaware of the concept of temptation. She has a dark and troubled past, which she deals with in two ways. Either she turns up the angst and thus gets lots of attention, or she remains unreasonably cheerful and optimistic in spite of it and becomes a full-on Genki girl. Don't know what that means. There is no middle ground here, although she may occasionally alternate.
Interesting.
She does become she becomes more emo. She becomes more angsty. She does.
Yeah. She may be flawed, but these are all informed flaws. This usually happens when the author is actively avoiding these common traits, but doesn't know how to do this realistically. That's usually leads to
informed flaws. Yeah.
Yeah, this usually leads to quote-unquote flaws that never actually hinder the character or make her look bad. If it's something that makes her darker and edgier, like substance abuse or nymphomania, we never see any of the drawbacks of it. If she's a klutz, that just makes her a cute, clumsy girl. Again, she becomes clumsy with the Force in the new movie, and anything
clumsy
that
is a really common one. Like if you read Twilight, she's clumsy. That's her trait. Clumsy is usually the go-to for Mary Sue's because it's a flaw, but not being such a debilitating flaw.
50 Shades of Grey, also apparently the protagonist in that is clumsy. I've heard.
Rey dabbles in the dark side, but never suffers the consequences of doing that.
Oh yeah, she can do her little lightsaber twirl and rah! Throne room fight, and that's not supposed to
nothing comes
foreshadow
of it.
that she's. Yeah, yeah. Like if that was Anakin, you'd be like, "Holy shit, he is like
He's
turning
turning
into
evil.
Vader here." Yeah,
He had those dark circles
but
in his eyes by that time, but not Rey. She can
No,
do force
no.
lightning. She can do whatever dark side power she wants. Nothing comes of it. She's
Oh,
still the goody two shoes.
I remember hearing people react to that little bit from the throne room fight, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that was so cool when Rey did that."
You mean
Ugh.
rage? The thing you're not supposed to do if you're a force user?
Of Robot Head saying that he's like, remember when Jedi used to focus their energy? They would calm and then go. It's like, no, she's like, ah. It's like, oh man. You're not a Jedi.
Sometimes it's a flaw that has no relevance to the story, like being a lethal chef in a story where she never has to cook. Sometimes she will even complain about her awesome power or stunning beauty or special place in the world for no reason other than the author realizing that the character can't look too perfect, except she usually forgets to write in circumstances that would actually cause someone to react that way.
Well, my favorite one is if they want to draw back on, quote unquote, draw back on the Marius's beauty. So they gave her a scar, but it's a really cool scar. Like it's a Bond villain type scar. It's over the eye or something. It's never like a scar that makes her ugly. Yeah, it's a cool scar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a scar on her arm. Occasionally she'll be a complete asshole, even when she's supposed to be all of the above. This can manifest itself in several ways. The author wants to write a badass but doesn't know how. This leads to a character who, a character who mistreats everyone around her and is never called out on her abrasive, casually abusive behavior. So, in the beginning of Rise of Skywalker, Poe and Finn and Chewie they have to light spring away from the First Order with the Falcon, which causes the Falcon to get set on fire. And when they return to the Resistance base, Rey sees that the Millennium Falcon is on fire, and she scolds Poe for it. But for all we know, that is the only way that they could have gotten away from the First Order, thanks to the hyperspace tracking that Rian Johnson introduced. So you have Rey basically saying, "Wow, you have you guys got my ship on fire. You guys should have just died." Like she's fucking scolding Poe for doing what's necessary to survive, and she doesn't get called out on that.
Well, it's her ship. I mean, if I would say that was my ship, in all fairness, I would be angry that they caught it on fire. But only after they survived. But I think a good example of that in that movie is all the other times that she goes off on her own for no reason at all, just to go off on her own and get everyone in trouble. Mm-hmm. And then no one really calls her out on that, except for the Emperor at the end, and then that's it. There's no consequence of it. He's always treated as in the right, even though she acts rashly and gets everyone in trouble.
Yeah. Let's see. Other badass characters, no matter how tough or violent, provide her with an opportunity to put them in their place, or rather, they instantly capitulate and turn into meek angst factories around her. The author is
Skywalker.
To Luke. Another possibility is that the author is trying to present her assholery as a flaw, but feels like with all the other flaws listed above, a flaw like stubbornness will never come back to bite her because she will always turn out to be right all along. Wow, kind of like when she goes up to the Supremacy to try to save Kylo, even if she isn't able to redeem Kylo up there, it still gets Snoke killed.
That's why I've said this before, is that a flaw isn't a flaw unless it hurts your character. Okay, if it hurts your character, then it's a real flaw. If it makes your character better or helps them succeed, it's not really a flaw, is it?
You know what happens when she does something that other characters say is a bad idea? It gets the most powerful Force user we've ever seen in the franchise get killed. A powerful Force user who is working on the side of evil. A powerful Force user that they need dead. So,
What an excellent flaw that she has.
Yeah, one time she has a conflict in the story that she can't surpass with her magical powers, the guy dies within seconds.
A bad temper just gives her an excuse to own her enemies, all of whom deserve it. Rudeness and tactlessness are portrayed as speaking her mind, and she'll always be right.
She is always right.
Another point, another possibility for like like a possible explanation for this is the author doesn't know how to hold back the character, meaning that she will succeed at practically everything.
She does. She
This
succeeds
means
everything.
when she encounters rules or authority figures who would otherwise prevent her from doing what she wants to do, she rolls right through them, and they praise her for her boldness in defying regulations. If a bad guy is violent and aggressive, she can beat him by being more violent and aggressive, with all that entails, which is what she does at the end of The Force Awakens with Kylo Ren.
It's exactly what happens throughout the entire all 3 movies, pretty much.
Yeah. It's impossible for her to go overboard because she's protected by protagonist-centered morality. She will always be better than the canon characters, regardless of what canon has established they can do or whether it makes any sense. Now, of course, this is being written in the context of like fanfic and not like actual canon Mary Sue's. But we can swap out canon here for like legacy characters, established characters, like
you can have a canon Mary Sue. I mean, it's called a canon Sue.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's what Bella Swan is in the Twilight books.
And I also think Anastasia Steele is too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I brought up 50 Shades like just a few minutes ago.
I think that's a common trope in those kind of stories too, for some reason.
Have you seen Arrow on the CW?
No, I haven't.
Felicity Smoke is probably one of the worst Mary Sues that I've ever seen. I wouldn't mind. We could like do some sort of thing where we like watch through the first. The first couple seasons of Arrow are actually pretty good, and I'd recommend them to you. As far as like superhero TV goes, you have to sort of, it's not top tier television or anything, but it's decent. But then seasons 3 and 4 turn this Felicity Smoke character into quite possibly the worst Mary Sue I've ever seen. Like, she nukes a city and doesn't suffer any consequences for it.
Serious?
She kills like 10,000 people, and in the season after that happens, in season 5, there's a resident that like that city was his hometown, and he finds out about it, which she was keeping a secret. She and everyone else was keeping a secret from. But he like forgives her immediately afterwards, like within the same episode. There's no conflict that comes out of this revelation. It's insane.
You wacky person! He's nuked the city.
Her powers will often be similar to those of the existing characters, only with all the downsides and limitations removed. If the characters need a new skill, she'll often already have it. And even if she does need to earn it, she'll pick it up in no time. This serves to make her indispensable to the canon characters. It's especially common with a God Mode Sue. Occasionally, she will be described as only almost as good, but ultimately, Mary always shows greater skill. Relatedly, there's no effort to her skills. She never actually trains or learns anything to become more powerful. She just wins the superpower lottery, or is a freakish natural learner, or is just inexplicably awesome. The author rarely finds it necessary to explain why Mary Sue is as powerful as she is, and they're certainly not going to stop the action to show her training. Now, Rise of Skywalker does actually, show her training at the very beginning of the movie.
Oh, a little bit. On the third movie, she trains.
Yeah, on the third movie, she's finally shown training. Everything that we have before that is she's self-training herself to swing a lightsaber at a rock.
And in the third movie, she's introduced to us before we ever see her training at all. She's floating several feet above the air, having rocks float around her as if she can control them with her mind. And then we see her training. And her training is she uses the lightsaber to deflect a few bolts, and she runs a little bit, and she bounces on a log while deflecting bolts, and that's it. No awesome scene with Yoda, with Leia having a Yoda-esque moment where she explains the Force and how you have to concentrate and focus your mind. No, it's just she runs a little bit, deflects a few bolts. Okay, so I guess problem solved then. No. No
shortcomings, maybe like her struggling a little bit. She like says she can't. They try. They say like she's better with like the physical stuff rather than like getting mentally connected to the Force or something like that. But she just magically does in the end of the movie. So it's
none of that. They just play lip service to the training. It's just okay. They complain about training. Let's give them some training. They don't. Exactly. They didn't really go into the essence of the training. Why the training is so important in Star Wars. It's just okay. Here's some lip service to training. Maybe we can stop complaining now. No, you did it wrong.
I I would buy the lifting rocks thing if she was like 20 to 30 years older and she was a Skywalker and she was established to be a Skywalker long before we saw her lifting all those rocks. That's how
She's a
you could
Palpatine.
earn that. Exactly. Well, she is a Palpatine, but she's revealed after the fact to be a Palpatine.
Yeah,
And,
in last minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these details and permutations, it's all based on the fact that she has no character that requires to be changed, or she's already established as being able to do anything, so there's no need for struggles. And this is really the first point that Southpaw mentioned about personality, that if we look at what a story is, it's to come to a climax of some magnitude, some event, some dramatic idea, or some conflict. And that's the point upon which the character, our protagonist, who should be flawed in something, has to make a choice to change, to grow, to either regress even further, to grow positively, to grow neutrally, or even run away. Mm-hmm. So there's all these options at the climax, and it's all based on personality. And with Rey, she has no flaws to have a personality worth changing. So all these things that were listed, and we can keep going. I don't think we need to.
Oh, there's at least a couple more that you guys would want to see. It's like,
do you have a Last of Her Kind on there?
A what?
The Last of Her Kind. Mary Sue's usually also a common trope of them is being the last of their kind in some manner, shape, or form.
I don't have Last of Their Kind on there, but if you wanted to read that part out, I'd be down. Do you want to go ahead and do that now, or
actually, I don't know where it is on here. Let me see.
Okay,
I know it's on there. That's a trope.
While you look, I'll go ahead and continue. It's hold on. She speaks several languages fluently.
I hate that. She just knows like Wookiee. It's like, where did you
learn that? Know Wookiee? Why would you know droid?
Sense.
Like when in the original trilogy, when R2 would beep and whistle and everything, C-3PO would have to translate that for everyone else. But with Rey, no. BB-8 just starts talking, and she just knows what he's saying. You have her translating Chewie for Luke, who should know what Luke is already. What Chewie's already saying. Like, I hate it. Her skills will often be unrealistic within the story setting. She can be a master of a martial art that she should have no way of learning or which doesn't exist. She can use magic or telepathy in a universe that's like reality. Her physical abilities will be absurd. She can run like the wind without breaking a sweat or ever having trained for it. These are, I guess this is one of those things where it's like that's not necessarily a trait that she has. I would say that her self-training with a staff is stupid. I don't think that you can. As someone that
I've never bought that ties things together, and Shad like is against that vehemently. That like the staff like is the same thing as the sword, but I'm like that's not explanation as to why she can use a sword. It's like it's what people made up afterwards. They're like, well, she's trained with the staff. It's like that's not an explanation.
It's not the same. A staff is not a sword, and a sword is not a staff. And she needs a
training
mentor.
is not the same thing as talking as someone who has trained in martial arts. No, just she lives a hard life on Jakku, so of course she's self-trained. No.
It's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it.
Yeah, you cannot self-train and become a better fighter than someone who trained under a mentor who had also trained under another mentor who then trained under a different mentor. It's like, there has to be like this lineage of mentors basically to pass down that information to you.
You know, it makes it even worse that Kylo Ren trained under Luke, and then he trained under Snoke. And at the time, Snoke seemed like he's very powerful on the dark side. The third movie makes it even worse because apparently he wasn't being trained by Snoke; he was really being trained by Palpatine. Because Snoke is kind of an intermediary between Palpatine and anyone else. Also, I sort of found it.
Go ahead and read it out.
She might be a half-human hybrid, giving her cause to angst. If a canon character is non-human and explicitly the last of his kind, her non-human part might be of that race, just to keep him company. So if there is like a character who is canonically the last of his race, like for example, before they kind of ruined it, the recent iteration of the Doctor as the last of his kind, the Time Lord.
Oh yeah,
Mary Sue would be introduced, and she would be like half Time Lord, which I think they did a couple of times, but that's kind of what they have in that specific example. But I know for a fact that Mary Sue's often, not always, but a common trait of them is them being kind of like a weird race and or being the last of their kind in some manner, which Rey kind of is. She's the last of the Palpatines and is now the last of the Skywalkers because she now identifies as one.
Yeah. Let's see. I've got hold on. And with all this, don't expect the green-eyed monster to show up. Envy appears in these Sue's life only as a means of angst. It's not there to show the downsides of being awesome at everything. Anybody who does get jealous of her is deliberately set up as stupid or evil, and often in the way of the author's preferred ship. Here's a big one. So we had a discussion about this on the first part of our response to Neryl. But she will be related to a canon character in some way. This marginally helps.
That was so bad. They made rules against it in Star Trek.
This marginally helps explain such phenomena as her being a copycat Sue and other characters accepting her so easily. She will often be a canon character's offspring, perhaps even the villains for added angst. But
she's also Luke, but a girl, so she's also kind of the copycat Sue.
Yeah, she's a copycat of Luke, but she gets the angst of being Palpatine's granddaughter. This tends to raise further questions, like the character being too young for a child, or being gay or asexual. I guess the asexual would probably fit Palpatine. Like there's,
Palpatine is asexual.
They never explained who he married or anything, and they never really go into explain or anything about the child of the Emperor, which you think would be pretty important. Doesn't even make a mention. They just exist for the sake of Rey.
Yeah, consider how it's a common joke now to go, okay, so the Emperor got busy at some point, and so it's like that's a thing that we just simply did not really want to think about, but now we're forced to think about it. Let's see. Most characters give her more heed than they normally would. The good guys never stop praising her. The bad guys never stop belittling her.
Emotional validation. They do. Yep. They never stop praising her.
They talk about her when she's not present. At least one will confess to being secretly in love with her. If more than one does, if more than one does, they may fight each other over her. Let's see. We've got. Okay, so we're on the last few screenshots. Characters' previously established personalities change in reaction to her. Proud, arrogant gimps suddenly acknowledge her superiority in everything. That's Han Solo. Reckless youths will listen to all her advice. Responsible leaders will defer to her instead. Villains will obsess with her to the detriment of all else. Kylo Ren. Extremely competent characters will become stumbling buffoons who require her help to do anything. That's Finn. Sweet, mild-mannered characters whom the author doesn't like turn evil and insult her. That's Luke. They all become naturally unfocused on her in some way. She's a perfect judge of character, and she'll be right about everyone. If everyone suspects an ally is really a backstabber, she'll be the only one to trust him. If everyone believes the villain is really a good guy, she'll be the one to suspect him. It's particularly obvious when she's inserted midway into a canon story and knows exactly how everything will play out. This allows her to play Fixer Sue and do things like preventing a canon face-heel turn. So the fact that she is the one person that knows about Kylo Ren redeeming himself and turning back to being Ben Solo at the end, indicating that, she was right all along.
Making her even wiser than Luke Skywalker. Somehow.
She will get special treatment in universe. Anything that the canon characters would have to fight for or earn, she just gets automatically. So, think of all of the things that she has inherited. She's inherited like Luke and Anakin's lightsaber. She's inherited the Millennium Falcon. At the end of the trilogy, she's got Poe's droid BB-8 with her for some reason. Chewbacca's going to be her wingman, presumably, since Falcon with just one pilot, you kind of have to have a co-pilot, and Chewbacca has been working on that, been flying that ship for several years. It's like, she is like totally the character that you would write if you wanted to imagine yourself in the Star Wars universe and you get to use Anakin's lightsaber and you get to be the one who flies the Millennium Falcon and has Chewbacca as their buddy, like, come on.
You beat up Luke Skywalker, you change the bad guy, you inherit the X-Wing, and you not only inherit the X-Wing, you get the lightsaber, and you get the Lars farm. You get the farm where Luke grew up. You just kind of just walk over to it. It's like a frontier rules. You just kind of claim your stake.
Yeah. Oh, but we're still not finished. Mary Sue is always a single person spotlight stealing squad. The entire story hinges on her existence. If you removed her, there would be no story. All other elements of the story are designed to show off how awesome she is and cannot function independently. I like how the one story that's not focused on Rey in any particular way is the Canto Bight in hyperspace tracker subplot in The Last Jedi, and look how that went.
They failed.
They tried. Yeah, they couldn't do it. She is not bound by the rules of the universe, whatever the setting may be. Nobody will ever comment on the impossibility of what she does. They'll just assume she's that talented, lifting the rocks. Her backstory is often self-contradictory, as the author piles on more and more awesome things without any regard for how they could all happen. Most continuity issues are hand-waved or voodoo sharks.
You're reading these out, and it's like these are check marks that they chose to do.
This is
how did they do this so surgically? It's like,
the backstory being self-contradictory, like I said, I like it. Okay, this is a good one. This is a massive one here. You guys ready? Mary Sue is the chosen one, even if the setting already has one. There are many ways. There are many ways she can accomplish this. There are many ways
chosen one in Sky Wars. Yeah.
There are many ways she could accomplish this. She can be a Sailor Earth type who shares the position with the canon hero. She may be vaguely destined to help the destined one fulfill their destiny, i.e. to do all the work except the final blow so that the prophecy is still technically correct. Or the canon hero may be revealed to be a fake ultimate hero all along.
Skywalker. And yes, you had Anakin. He turned into Darth Vader. He still fulfilled the prophecy of the chosen one by defeating the Emperor. The Emperor didn't die, and Rey defeated him anyway.
It's a line from the trailer or something. You failed. You will succeed where we failed, or something. I think so. There was a line in either the trailer. I remember that. And then suddenly at the end of the movie, she becomes all the Jedi somehow.
1,000 generations live within you now.
Yeah, and she will succeed where everyone failed. That's kind of where it's going.
Yeah. Being the chosen one doesn't necessarily involve her being a god mode Sue, especially as authors become aware of the phenomenon and try to avoid it, but it does make her critically important to the world and allows her to continue stealing the spotlight without the god mode label.
That's true. You don't, just because you're a chosen one doesn't mean you're Mary Sue. But in the Rey's case, it's like you said, there was already a chosen one in this universe. She just became another chosen one.
Yeah. And then we've got... Let's see. Okay. Relatedly, she will often have a tragic family life. This could involve parental abandonment or orphanhood, and whichever parental figures she has are often abusive, putting her squarely into Cinderella circumstances.
She was abandoned, and there's a big section of people who think because that one fat guy from the first one, his arm was in frame for a few seconds. That pluck guy, because his arm was in frame for just his arm was in frame for a few seconds when she was a kid. Suddenly, that implies that he took her in, he raised her, and he taught her everything she knows.
Yeah,
and if that's true, then he's abusive. So
people say that's how she can Millennium Falcon because Unkar Plutt taught her that. It's like how they don't go into any of that. Yeah,
they don't even imply it. He was just there. His arm was in frame. Part of his arm was in frame for a few seconds when she was a little girl.
That's imply any bit of a relationship between them. Like she sells him like scraps, and he doesn't treat her any differently.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Regardless, this backstory will never actually hold Mary Sue back from anything she wants to accomplish. Yep. Let's see. And then here we go. This is a pretty big one. She's too good for the sinful earth and will perform a heroic sacrifice to prove it. The story will often go out of its way to ensure that she doesn't leave an ugly corpse, either by a method involving no external physical damage or just not leaving a body to be recovered. Half the time,
Palpatine just sucks the life out of her. and then she kind of dies at the very end.
And she's a pretty corpse, of course. And half the time, it doesn't take anyway, according to TV tropes. As in, half the time she ends up coming back to life anyways. So, which is what happens here.
Okay, this is how ridiculous it is. Okay, Kylo Ren gets knocked into a crevice, like to his death, and then after Rey dies, he magically climbs his way back up, crawls over to Rey, gives her his life force, making Anakin look like a failure in the end, because that's his whole reason why he went to the dark side, was to learn how to bring people back to life. And then he dies.
Yeah.
They make a sorry, Anakin.
They break the rules and ruin Anakin's entire reasoning to becoming a dark side force user, so that Rey can come back to life and leave from her pretty corpse. Now she's just back to life.
There's two more. She can redeem the villain through her overwhelming goodness and purity. More often than not, she does it by having sex with him.
It's also true. Yeah, the finger thing.
Well, the touching fingers, if it is to be believed by Major Lee, that is the closest thing that Star Wars has had to it. Actually, no, that wasn't Major Lee that said that. That was Rian Johnson that said that.
The same guy.
Also,
I'm pretty sure
guy. Well, she fucking stabs Kylo Ren through the chest while he's grieving his dying mother, and then she realizes afterwards, and then she heals him and says, "I will never be like you." And then she leaves him on the Death Star wreckage and steals the ship. And after that is when he turns to the light side. Oh, hold on. Yeah. So yeah, if we're to sort of go along with that, that I think that counts.
She's almost every single box.
Well, there's one more. She almost never does anything wrong. In the rare instance that she does, it's usually a way for the author to disclaim her being a Mary Sue by introducing a single imperfection that has no bearing on anything anyway, and B, designed to show her smarts by making her feel instant remorse, and she'll be easily forgiven anyway. And this is exactly the thing that made me think that I thought of when we brought up Chewbacca, because they even have a sample bit of dialogue here. So, Mary Sue, I'm sorry I just shot Marvin in the face. Marvin's friend. It's okay. I never liked him anyway. They have a fucking scene like this right after she's supposedly exactly what happened. Chewbacca. She is grieving what she did in killing Chewbacca, and Finn's like, it's okay. It's not your fault. Yeah.
It's not your fault. It was your fault, though. You're the one who blew it up because you shocked it with force lightning, because you couldn't control yourself, and you blew it up. It is your fault. But because she's a Mary Sue, it isn't. She gets forgiven. And Chewbacca doesn't even die. He's alive.
Yeah, they reveal that 2 minutes after she supposedly kills him too.
And they could have at least let it linger.
Like, what the hell?
I don't know why they did
that way.
There is no time for you. There's no time for you to sort of simmer on that, or
Even Just Right wasn't a fan of that in his latest rating.
It doesn't give you any time to marinate on the possibility that she just killed Chewbacca. And even I guarantee you, even if they decided to finalize her killing Chewbacca, they still wouldn't make her pay for it in any way. They would just move on from it like it's no big deal. Guarantee you that's what they would have done.
Yeah, everyone seems to have kind of forgotten that Kylo Ren killed Han Solo. I mean, Rey apparently forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, she fucking forgets the scene after the one where she tells him, "You killed Han Solo" in The Last Jedi. Remember that? They're talking through their little Force Skype connection, and this is, I think, when Kylo still has his shirt on, and she's like, "You're a monster. You killed Han Solo." And then the very next scene where they're talking through the Force Skype connection, correct me if I'm wrong, if that's not the very next scene, but they're basically suddenly he's enticing her to join him, and they're going to touch fingers through the Skype call.
It's pretty sure that it's exactly a show of intimacy for one race. I think it's in Star Trek. I'm not really sure which one it is. touching the fingers. I think that is a race of. There's a race that has that as intimacy, but it's not humans.
Yeah,
that's kind of Avatar too. The James Cameron's Avatar, at least.
I think that was it.
Well, the point is that she goes from being upset about Han Solo's death to suddenly she doesn't care about it anymore.
Maybe they should hook up now.
There's
I guess
She was making
patricide.
a father figure out of Luke Skywalker,
Oh
so
my
she
gosh.
just moved on to a different father.
I guess patricide
According
is
to
kind of her
Kylo.
kink. That's her
There
kink.
is-
Yeah.
There is at least like 30 minutes of screen time that is missing that can justify this development in any way whatsoever. Minimum of 30 minutes.
Well, you have to remember the the third Skype call
just
was
skip
where
it all.
she was so distraught because she never felt so alone. So she didn't even care who she was talking to. Apparently, even a guy who murdered her father figure, and it was like, "Oh, I'm going to identify with this guy now. He's a crazy psychopath."
Flung her into a tree hard enough to knock her unconscious.
Oh yeah, that was beautiful. It's like, yeah, I'm going to throw you 4 stories up in the air, slam you into a tree, break your neck,
and then I'm going to. Then I'm going to try to cripple your friend who's trying to protect you.
Now that is really sexy. I mean, if you think patricide was sexy, crippling your friends, that's extra sexy.
There's ways to make that work. Like they do that in the Silence of the Lambs pretty well, but like Clarice and Hannibal Lecter are not in love in that movie. There's a connection between them, and there's a lot of conversations that explain their development, but it's not like they're not like flirting with each other halfway through the film. It's like it's not the same thing.
Yeah,
it's like you need to.
It's sort of flirting, but it's
Yeah,
a
you
different
need to
kind of
flesh
flirting.
this out.
It's more like reflect. It's more like a thing of respect.
Yeah.
And finally, someone can
Exactly.
understand you, someone can stand them. It's not really love.
Yeah,
it's
Rey
more like
is,
respect.
Rey is
and
confused
like
and lost, and Kylo is, I wouldn't say lost. He's just sort of saying, I want to do this, but then he doesn't. He kind of wants to do things, then he says, well, I'm not going to do it anymore, then I am going to do them. So you have these two sort of, one character is genuinely lost. Like Rey does not know who she is and what's going on, and she wants friends and family, etc. Then you have Kylo who's sort of, I'm going to do this, but I need your help. But if you don't join me, then I'm going to hurt you. And it's like, wait a second, what are you really trying to do here, Kylo? You're in charge now. You can do whatever you like, but you're going to keep hurting people. It's like, why? Like, what was stopping you from doing the right thing now that you've met Rey? And there's no actual goal he's going for aside from, well, I'm still evil, so I guess I should still be doing evil stuff. And Rey's in my way because I don't know, she is, and that's it. They still have a connection going on, and even at the end of The Last Jedi, they could still feel each other. I was like, this is weird. How did that happen? I thought the connection between Snoke was causing all this. So
we get supercharged in the third movie. They can use Force Skype to exchange items.
Oh wow!
In the third movie. Over light years. So there's one point where she puts her lightsaber behind her back, and then suddenly Kylo Ren has the lightsaber, so he can fight the battle he walked into with no weapons.
That's not how it worked in The Last Jedi. In The Last Jedi, it was like something that was like a side effect, like, you know, the whole rain thing. It's like, okay, this is just like, it's like a jet trail from a plane going through. Like, it's very much intentional in The Rise of Skywalker. Like, she hands him a weapon. You're like, this is full on teleportation now. So it's like, there's implications with that. Yeah, The Rise of Skywalker, man, it could have been a lot more delicate with how it handled some of the stuff that Ryan implemented, but man, they just took it to notch 10.
It was ridiculous. I couldn't take the movie seriously. I mean, I was barely taken seriously to begin with. And then I was like, okay, this is not just lazy writing. This is desperate writing. This is a guy lost in the desert trying to reach out for someone's flop sweat for sustenance sort of writing. This is really desperate.
Yeah.
He's like this, please. This isn't The Last Jedi. It's better than that. It's like, no, not really, man.
Anyone can go to the TV Tropes link I sent in the description or in the chat, and I'm going to put it in the description as well, just because you can go through some of these. We didn't obviously go through them all, and thank you very much for Southpaw for doing that, because that's almost a checkbox list of what happens when you end up writing a Mary Sue, and it's kind of scary.
I lost count of all the ones that I read out, but it's well over a dozen. I'd say it's close to at least 20. It's at least 20 traits that I read out that just fit her to a T. And you know, even with the disclaimer that, you know, having several of these traits doesn't necessarily make a character a Mary Sue, like just depending on how the writing works. Well, does anyone think that the writing for Rey works enough to justify having this many traits? Especially these traits. These traits in particular are pretty damn bad. There's some traits where it's like, oh, they have a great singing voice. And like, okay, that alone doesn't make a character a Mary Sue. But God, like the whole fact that she's never wrong, the fact that the one time that she does something bad, there's no consequences for it. There's loads of these where it's like, holy shit, this is just this is a lethal combination for a character, for any character basically.
Okay,
I don't think she's Mary Sue. I think you guys just hate women. That's the actual reasoning here. I think we're just all misogynists.
Yeah. I mean, if this is how women want to be written, then yeah, I kind of do hate them.
Well, this was a character written by 2, if not 3 males. So I don't know where this comes from. I don't like if I had nothing to write about. I was like, okay, let's write a superpowered character. What would you do? I don't think I'd even come near this. I wouldn't even go anywhere close to the kind of lack of faults, lack of challenge, lack of growth, lack of learning. Like, she doesn't really learn anything aside from I don't know what I am. I don't know who I am.
Okay.
Great.
So every single writer in the sequel trilogy is a man. You have J.J. Abrams, and Michael Arndt, Chris Terrio, and Lawrence Kasdan. There is probably going to be some influence from Kathleen Kennedy herself in there, but yes, every single sequel trilogy writer like that has a credit is a man. So get fucked.
I completely forgot what Mr. Nevell was talking about, so we're gonna have to.
Me too.
Go back. Go back
Sorry,
to the
folks.
video.
It's just a fun little tangent. That's all. I think that he was talking about like Rey's arc, I guess, about like why her being a nobody is okay, which has aged very poorly because of the Rise of Skywalker revealing, oh, she's not a nobody after all.
And of course, the Rise of Skywalker is like solely to blame for that. That's what Just Right thinks. That's what everyone thinks about the Rise of Skywalker.
Just Right.
It's become the scapegoat.
Everyone was defending this as the reason why she's a nobody is because it's the whole message of the Disney sequels is that anyone can be a hero. So that's why it's so important she's nobody. And then Rise of Skywalker comes out.
and people change the goalposts like Brown Table did in his video. He said like it's actually good for this reason. It can be both of them. I knew people would say like it's important that she thought she was a nobody, but actually her having an actual purpose is there. It's like, guys, you cannot just keep changing the goalposts and saying all the writing is good. It's like you need to settle down on one. It's bad.
Let's keep going. I think we've meandered a bit too much.
Yeah, we have.
Let's go.
Been failed by the light and dark sides of the Force and had to find a new path forward, and in that way have an unexpected bond. If they can resolve their differences, this could finally lead to real balance in the Force.
Again, real balance in the Force is not what he thinks it is. It's never been defined, and he thinks it's apparently a bunch of dead Jedi.
We've already explored that, right?
Yeah, the Force is not God. The Force is not God. It doesn't have a sentience. It's just a force.
Well, basically, if he's arguing from a premise that we've already basically broken down, we can just move on, right?
Yeah, it's
like we don't really we don't have to.
Well, we could move on from this entire video because this entire video is a bunch of premises that we've all debunked. This video is just a well-edited version of all these arguments.
It's a follow-up statement to a bad argument that he himself has already made in this video that we've already responded to in this in these two streams.
People like to say that Rian Johnson threw away everything J.J. Abrams set up, but just because you didn't get the answer you wanted doesn't mean that he didn't use those elements.
He did. He literally did. Daisy Ridley herself said,
just because you didn't get the story you wanted.
Yeah. Daisy Ridley herself said that like Rian Johnson was given a bunch of notes from J.J. Abrams that he then like basically didn't use for the Last Jedi script. He was given an outline by J.J. Rian Johnson decided not to follow it. Sorry.
Okay.
Instead of going for fan service and making her Obi-Wan's granddaughter, he took the threads from The Force Awakens and used them to challenge the characters as much as possible and tell a far more interesting story.
Challenge the characters? How?
She's not Obi-Wan's granddaughter.
How did he challenge the characters to make an interesting story? What did they do?
Didn't.
What did she get challenged by? A freaking pool in the water? And, oh yeah, I'm now not. I don't know who I am. I'm so alone. I'm challenged by.
She made faces like she was getting challenged.
What? How?
she made a few grunting noises and like she made a few faces that looked like she was getting challenged, but she didn't.
The most painful thing she went through was when Snoke picked her up like a rag doll and bopped her on the back of the head with a freaking lightsaber, and then he dies like 30 seconds later because he has to.
How dare you touch the Mary Sue? Okay, you defiled the Mary Sue. You die.
I was so happy to see something. Oh my God, there's something more powerful than Rey. Okay, we might actually have an actual story where she has to overcome this hurdle of this greater villain than she. But nope, he's gone. He's gone. There's no hurdle. It's back to Kylo again. It's like, okay, Kylo, here we go. Let's have a meaningless throne room fight because apparently guys in red, you have to do something aside from stand around with all those fancy guns or fancy sharp objects, which are just as powerful as lightsabers. So, yay.
Smud, check the Discord chat.
Okay. What's happening? Yeah, go for it, man. You've exhausted so much of the world of Mary Sue-ness. So
thank you very much.
Yeah.
I would want to stay and cover a little bit more, but I was invited to appear on EFAP. Before I hopped on the stream, and I said, well, I do have a prior commitment, but I also like this video. I feel is like is taking a long time to cover, especially with 4 people. I think if I cut myself out here a little bit, Evan's going to do a great job with filling in this role of guest, and if assuming how depending on how things go, I'll probably end up coming back here shortly. So,
all right. Well, thank you for your input, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be on these streams. LiteratureDevil, it's great meeting you finally. I really enjoy your content, and I appreciate the follow on Twitter from today. And I hope to interact with you guys more often from here on out.
Well, Happy New Year, sir, and have yourself a great week.
Thank you. Happy New Year. In fact, you guys should come on my podcast sometime. We could cover more stuff together that way.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. Later, all.
See you, sir. Okay, well, we might actually not have a part 3 tonight, but I doubt it. We're probably going to have a part 3 anyway, so... Most likely. We just keep pausing every 20 seconds, like, oh God, no, please stop, sir. Stop talking. All right. What you gonna do? We can do another 4 minutes, guys. Come on. Let's do it.
And the one challenged most of all was... Before even getting into Luke's character, Rian Johnson did not decide to make him a broken hermit. Neither did J.J. Abrams. George Lucas did. His story treatments apparently had Luke hermited away at the original Jedi Temple, with a female student seeking him out and forcing him to overcome his depression.
What did that say? The idea... Hang on. I want to go back on that one, what he said on the text. Is this something that's in the EU, or...?
Yeah, well, this is... The opinion is that the treatment by Luke was not done by Johnson. It was done by Lucas. So... That's fine. You could write your character any way. It's how you write them and how you set it up that has to matter. And it doesn't really matter where the idea came from. I actually like the idea of a disgruntled Luke. I think that's fine. It's how you get there. It's how you express it.
He did a terrible job.
Yeah,
he was just emo.
Yeah, it's like Johnson said, what a great idea. I'm thinking I'm going to steal that. And then he didn't realize how to actually treat with that, how to work with that. When you are taught by... the narrative that Luke is this way because he felt something and he pulled out his weapon, and then he felt shame, and he was scared of his shame for 30 years. There's something wrong with your storytelling technique, okay? You cannot feel an emotion for 30 years and not do something with that. It doesn't make sense. Even if you committed a horrible act of crime or something, you would feel like, hey, I want to correct myself. I want to seek redemption. This is a very, very common pattern in heroic journeys or rags to riches or riches to rags. You do that one wrong thing and it just destroys your personality. That's the story we should have gotten from Luke, where he feels like he cannot redeem himself, but he's striving to, and he can't. Instead, we got Luke just putzing around on a mountain and fishing. And
what's the context of even if George Lucas had said, okay, Luke Skywalker is this disgruntled Jedi 30 years later, what's the context?
Yeah.
Was Luke Skywalker the main character in that scenario? Because that would really work really well.
Yeah, we should
have like
seen
a spry new little student come in and revitalize his life.
Yeah,
that's a common formula too.
Yeah, this story should have been 80% Luke, just all about Luke, what happened to him, what he's doing, how he's trying to redeem himself, and how he fails and fails and fails. That would have been fine, but we didn't get that. We got this thing with Rose and Finn and the First Order and Rey, and Luke was kind of in there. I remember that comment by Kathleen Kennedy, Luke is integral to this story. I was like,
not really.
Not
he was
really, no. He just sort of wasted time when everyone else could have been running away. Everyone watched him. It's like, oh, what is Luke doing out there? Wait, I know why. We have to run away again. Oh, yeah, we're doing that. Okay, that's the whole movie. The entire Resistance runs away, and Luke stops, and everyone stops running. Oh, wait, yeah, we should be running away again. Great.
Before even getting into Luke's character, Rian Johnson did not decide to make him a broken hermit. Neither did J.J. Abrams. George Lucas did. His story treatments apparently had Luke hermited away at the original Jedi Temple, with a female student seeking him out and forcing him to overcome his depression. Boy, that sounds an awful lot like The Last Jedi.
Yeah, that would have been fantastic. If Luke Skywalker was the main character, that'd been fantastic. If Luke Skywalker was the main source of this movie, which he wasn't. It was Rey.
Not the concept, it's the execution.
Yes, exactly.
Lucas even approved concept art for the setting during the transition to Disney. It's often argued that Luke never should have ended up in this position because he was always hopeful and upbeat, but that's only one side of his character.
Just isn't fair. Oh, Biggs is right. I'm never gonna get out of here.
This is the first movie, okay? This is no longer Luke. It's pretty obvious. I don't know what he's...
This is like when in his third scene. Yeah, he's frustrated that he cannot get out of his position. That's the whole point of him staring into the binary sunset. He wants to be part of something greater. That's his position at the start. That's before his arc. Yeah.
And he goes through this giant journey, and then he becomes a whole brand new person. And then you can't go wind us back in time and go, oh, well, this is what really Luke was. It's like, no.
He changed. That's the whole point of the hero's journey. You start off as one person, you go through a bunch of obstacles.
You got it.
And you're a different person, a better person, a more mature person.
Exactly.
If there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that it's farthest from.
Where are you going?
Looks like I'm going nowhere.
Can't believe he's gone. Oh, Two, what are we doing here? No, I don't even know what I'm doing here.
So his argument is that regular people can be sad at sometimes, and so Luke apparently, because he's has the ability to be sad and frustrated, is going to become inevitably a lonely, bitter hermit.
And I was about to say, I can play this game too. I could edit together a bunch of quotes of him being hopeful in the OT as well. What do these clips prove? You're trying to prove a narrative here, but this is not evidence that Luke is hopeless and that he would be hopeless for 30 years. You can't just show clips and say this proves that he would just give up on everybody and become a hermit. That does not make any sense.
Can you imagine how, I wouldn't say egotistical, but how headstrong you would be if you were the guy who brought your dad back from the dark side for one moment and then saved the galaxy? Imagine how euphoric and awesome you would feel. I can do anything now. I can go save the second galaxy. Even if I screw up, I'll just keep trying. That's really momentous. And for Luke to go oh, I felt bad. Oh, I'm going to feel this way for 30 years now.
We can accept it, but yeah, you're right. He the last time we saw him, he saved the galaxy from an oppressive empire. He destroyed the Emperor. Or he helped destroy the Emperor, which was almost impossible. And he turned his father, who had been a dark side proponent for 20 years before that point. He did all of this because of Luke. All of this happened. So we need some major explanation other than he felt that his nephew was going to turn evil, and suddenly he became the type of guy who would murder you in your sleep.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wasting our time.
The boy has no patience.
We'll never get it out now.
Always with you, it cannot be done.
I can't. You want the impossible. I can't do it, R2. I can't go on alone. I'm endangering the mission. I shouldn't have come. I have no memory of my mother.
Man,
Never knew.
it,
Then my father is truly dead. Soon I'll be dead. And you with me.
He was certain that Vader was still a good guy,
There is still good in him. There is good in him. I felt it.
and nearly killed him in a fit of hateful rage. Luke isn't always who we want him to be, and that's why he works as a protagonist. Some fans wanted his challenges to be over.
Okay, it sounds as if he's thinking that Luke is kind of capricious and that sometimes he thinks this and sometimes he thinks the opposite. It's like, well, yeah.
Luke is human? Wow.
Yeah, people can do that. That's not the point. The argument actually he's pointing at that how he thought how Vader was actually as a bit of good in him. That's against what he's trying to advocate for because, yeah, Luke did actually care about his dad, who was the most evil bastard he's ever met. And he gave up everything just on the hope that there might be some good in him still.
Yeah, he tried. That was the whole point of that entire Emperor scene, was that he just kind of hid in the shadows for a while, trying to talk his dad into turning and trying to convince him to come back. And then the only reason why he started wailing on him is because he threatened his sister Leia. He's like, okay, I can't turn Luke, I'll turn Leia. And then Luke started doing this whole rage thing, which he then stopped and is like, okay, I'm doing the wrong thing. This is bad. And he stopped.
That was the climax of
and again, one of the most common whataboutisms is that this and like him trying to kill Ben are the exact same thing. It's like the context just rips that entire argument apart, and
Luke falters.
Luke is not flawless.
So
he's a good guy. Good guys can falter, but they go back to being good.
Yeah, it seems like he really cares about his family, and we don't get that in The Last Jedi. He seems to not care about Ben for whatever reason, and then he just feels sad for 30. It just doesn't add up.
You could have done it, but like you need to earn it. Like there's so much legwork that needs to be filled in with like either a lot of exposition or some flashbacks or something. But just one flashback out of context, it's like that's not going to be enough. Like you need
a little bit more
to develop it
so that we can need a little bit more so we can actually organically feel and accept that Luke became this bitter hermit, other than he tried to murder someone in sleep because he felt him turning to the dark side or something. This Luke would have felt his nephew turn to the dark side and try to walk him through it, try to save him from it. That's what he's doing here. See, I would assume that this Luke would do the same to his nephew, who was relatively innocent compared to Darth Vader.
Well, yeah, but there's no explanation why Kylo then suddenly murdered his entire school because Luke got a little feisty. I mean, wouldn't Kylo just run
never
away?
Gotten that, man. Like, yeah, exactly. He would be afraid. He'd be like, he'd run. He'd be like, what just happened? Like, why did my master turn on me? But it's like, instead he kills all the students. You're like, what's the story there? Like was he resentful to them?
Yeah,
it's like,
were the students completely weak? Were they all sleeping? Did he murder them in their sleep? Like, what? Why didn't he warn them? Hey, my master is going to kill us all. Like, what the hell? No, he just slaughters them. And you're like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah. Because apparently Snoke had already gotten to his heart, and they don't explain that either.
Yeah.
Like there's a story there too, but it's like this is the whole thing with that flashback, like having no context backing it. They just say things work this way because flashback, and it's like you need to explain how everything got here.
A really cool confrontation between Ben Solo and Luke. Like, okay, they're going to confront each other about how Luke is running the school and how Ben Solo found someone better, or is falling to the dark side, and Luke trying to save him. That would have been a really cool confrontation. It would have been a really nice flashback. They didn't give us any of that, however.
They wanted, if you can believe it, fan service. To see the characters exactly as we saw them before, doing what we saw before, just, older. That didn't exactly work out for Indiana Jones.
Reunions are inherently disappointing, aren't they? I mean, your old TV show, they go, oh boy, they're coming back after 20 years. And then you see, I'm not sure.
And it goes against the mythology the series is based on.
And what all the myths have...
Can you name a franchise that came back after several years and it worked out?
Well, I don't see how this is an argument, because you can look at TV. It's been doing that for the past 15 years. I mean, I just heard a Mad About You spin-off, or it's coming back after 20 years. It's like, okay, well, I guess people want to see it. So they bring it back. That's why they do it. That's why we have a new trilogy. That's why these things exist. So
we don't even have to see them in the ship. We want to see them get back together because they're the old crew. Catch up. What's been going on for the last 30 years? How they interact with each other. But apparently that's bad.
Yeah, the same character is just older. It's like, yes, like, you know, the same characters that we knew, older, see their position, like what's inherently wrong with that? Like that can make for a good story. It just depends on how you execute it.
Yeah, it's just
Exactly.
the same with Obi-Wan series. It's like people want that. They want to see what happened to Obi-Wan between this and that. It's like, yeah, we want to see it. What's wrong with that?
And he brought up Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill was one of the guy who started all this. He tweeted out what could have been, and then tweeted out a picture of the gang back together. Mark Hamill did that.
Yeah, I mean, there are some arguments to be made, like let's say the new Picard show. Like people want to see that for the sake of it, and some of us are like, well, you know, we don't really need to. It's kind of a done deal. We get Star Trek.
I did want to see it.
I know.
I did want to see it until they came out with more of it.
Part of me still wants to, just because it's Picard. It's Patrick Stewart. He knows what he's doing, but
the
still.
Picard show kind of started off as a show exploring the psychological effects of Picard in his later days,
right?
And then they came out with a second trailer, and suddenly he's going off on this action-packed adventure with some sort of Borg girl. I don't know. That's okay. I wasn't interested anymore. That's not what I wanted to see.
If it was like, if it focused on the Borg, but as like the issues that he's still having because he was abducted and he killed all these people at Wolf 359 and
exactly
they brought in Seven of Nine, and she's like an expert, and there's Janeway, and she's also an expert at the Borg, and they're all just discussing, they're all having a nice little psychological argument. It's like, yes, that'd be awesome. I'd love to see that.
Because might become a surprise to the creators, to the writers of these shows, but I don't go to Star Trek for action.
No,
I go over there for intellectual discussion, some commentary on something. You know, the drama. I go there for drama, not laser guns and stuff. I go to Star Wars for that.
Yeah, they could have done any series with the Borg in the future, and it didn't have to be the Picard show. It could have just been anything, like, I don't know, Star Trek 22 or 2439 Earth, and what happens with the Starfleet there, with the Borg impending, and all these other storylines. Because once you have all the, like, DS9 and all these other series come together, hey, this guy was involved with the Borg, so was her, etc., and you can have this weird sort of war going on, this build-up war, not another time story, not another Xindi arc from Enterprise, not another this or that, but something new. Like, they could do that because they have the actors. The actors still love the show. I don't know about Patrick Stewart, maybe a few cameos here and there, not the whole thing. My God. I mean, he did the whole show himself. Like, let's not give him a second one. It's a bit much. Let's give it to some new people. I think the Hugh character is cool. Like, there's all sorts of things you can do. So again, that second trailer went, oh, it's an action event. It's another Star Trek. Okay, that's not what we want.
Someone in the chat also pointed out, have any of you seen Cobra Kai?
No.
Yes, I have.
No, I haven't.
Cobra Kai is excellent. I recommend you watch it.
That's a very good example of like what The Force Awakens tried to set out to do with having the original characters and like meeting new characters. That is a very good example of what he's describing. Like, old characters come back, introduce new ones. They're consistent with what we knew about them, and it's a new story that takes place 30 years after. That worked.
It's excellent. Everyone's characterization remains consistent. They're just a little different. They're the same characters. They obviously have changed over the years.
Position.
And we get to see them from different lights. The same people, the camera has changed a little bit.
To deal with is transformation of consciousness. That you're thinking in this way, and you have now to think in that way.
And if you look at the beginning of the hero's journey, like with King Arthur, he pulls the sword from the stone, he's ascendant, and if it then goes past that and deals with the hero's life as they get into middle age and beyond, it gets into darker places.
It gets dark, man.
There's a reason for that. It's because...
I don't think that the Legend of King Arthur can be compared to Luke Skywalker. Those are very different stories.
That's
like,
fine, but
he's acting like those.
Yeah, but what he's saying is totally fine. Like, he's not arguing against a point that, you know, once you get past a certain point, the hero is no longer this plucky young little dude who's, you know, hopeful. There's some fall from grace, which is totally fine. The problem is that's a story. You have to tell it like you would tell any other story, with essential details explaining how you get from A to B. And
exactly,
this dude just goes, "Oh, we're gonna start in the middle." And then we do a flashback. We won't explain the flashback. We won't give you enough details on the flashback. and that's why everything is the way it is. You're like, no, no, Ryan, that's not how you tell a story. I think he was just trying to be clever with the lie, like the two lies that Luke and like the two perspectives from Kylo and Luke. Like that was his clever part to say, okay, I'm going to give you three pieces of the puzzle, and they're all going to be different until you get to the last one. Thinking, okay, that's a mystery. That's good, but that's just one element of 5 different elements, like revelation and intrigue and lying and truth and honesty and redemption. All these other elements have to work in terms of revealing the truth. And you can look at a police procedural, you could look at any kind of murder mystery where you hear a testimony that is contradictory and it comes back and forth. Like you need the basics to tell a mystery in that context. And all he says is, well, Kylo said this, Luke said that. Hey, Luke, you're lying to me. Okay, I'll tell you the full truth. It's like, okay, that's it? That's the full truth. You can't be serious. Maybe there's a fourth one. We never got the fourth one. So it was, to put it bluntly, bad, just lacking in dramatic gravitas, lacking in detail. It's not how you tell a story of a man falling from grace. It doesn't add up. A guy like Luke would not just do this the way it was presented.
Myths are not made to sell action figures. Myths are made to reflect the most difficult transitions we go through in life.
Yeah.
Maybe the biggest strength of the serial form.
Does the creator of the video agree with that? Because if he does, he disagrees with pretty much everyone else who defends the Star Wars sequels. Because according to the people who defend the Star Wars sequels, the Disney sequels, it's all meaningless. You can't really there is no canon consistency, continuity. It's all meaningless. They are all unimportant and they're all disposable.
Well,
you watch them, you throw them away.
That's the message of the movie, because the myth is all one big lie. Luke is not a hero. He's a nobody. He ran away, and that's
Exactly.
that. Yeah. So
exactly.
So Ryan is saying all these good things, but in reality, he didn't tell any of those stories. He subverted the concept of the hero's myth. The old war veteran who comes out of retirement. He's like, I'm not going to tell this story. Oh wait, yes I am at the end. Oh wait, no I'm not. And then he dies. It's just this constant series of not juxtaposition, a constant series of reversals. He's constantly turning this key over and over. It's like, dude, would you stop that? Give us one version, subvert it one way, but don't keep turning it. Don't keep, oh, gotcha, and then the next scene, oh, gotcha again. It's like, stop it. It's like he has like that one technique. He just keeps using it over and over for everything. It's sad.
The Ryan Johnson key, and the J.J. Abrams mystery box. Awesome stuff.
It's the same. One brush just keep
together. Yeah.
As seeing how history unfolds and how the characters evolve into different roles over time. It's not disrespectful to a character to deny them a happy ending. It's disrespectful to parade them around for nostalgia's sake without moving them forward.
Okay, how was Luke moved forward? How? What part of him went forward?
He just changed to a bitter hermit for no reason, with very little explanation. Very little organic explanation.
I can't see what method of him progress. Like, in order to progress, you have to have a challenge, and then you make a choice of that challenge, kind of like a story, right? And then you actually achieve something. And okay, fine. Now I'm a new person. I'm a new character. That's progression. Okay.
30 years passed between the Return of the Jedi and the Force Awakens. About 30 years. That's an entire time for an epic to occur.
Right, and he could have progressed in a negative way, like that would have been fine. But he didn't progress at all. He just sort of stood still and ran away. Like if he was scared and really terrified of Snoke, and he'd be like, "Don't get near me. I don't want anything to do with you guys." Blah blah blah. But no, he just sat there saying, "This is all a pile of bullshit. This story sucks. I hate you guys. Leave me alone." That's essentially what he said to Star Wars, or the audience, I guess. This is all crap. Oh, the Jedi don't matter. The Sith don't. Nothing matters. Doesn't matter. Blah blah blah.
Part of the reason the characters never had that happy reunion is that Harrison Ford didn't want to be an empty cameo.
Harrison has always said that he knew that Han needed to have clear utility. In this case, there was such clear utility.
Han's death in The Force Awakens was totally in the service of that film's plot.
Clear utility. Han was like regressed back to the Han from the first movie. He's just sort of
he was just regular Han again. He went through a lot of change in the original trilogy. Apparently that all went out the window. He's now just regular Han from the first movie again.
He's still moving crap around and as a smuggler or a traitor. It's like, great. That's what we
getting into scraps and stupid situations.
Like
he's bad at it too. Like he isn't a good smuggler.
Yeah, he's no longer a good smuggler. He's bad at it.
Yeah.
He needs his own agency. Okay, fine. Yeah, great.
It wasn't about Han. It was about the new characters.
Oh, so we just scrap Han. Yeah, Han sucks. So we'll kill him off. Thanks, movie. Great storytelling there. Yeah, it's not really about him, so who cares? And maybe he could die. Yeah, it'd be great. Thanks.
30 years ago, no one would have predicted that his story would end this way, because these elements weren't even on the table back then.
What elements? He was a completely different character from what he was a hero. He saved Luke several times. He was a hero and welcomed as one at the episode 6. Now he's back to being old Han. What elements? It's exactly the same.
He's old Han and he's old Han and he seems a little bit senile. That's about it.
What elements is he talking about?
Sure.
Fix that. Can you unfix it?
Even when Han was introduced in The Force Awakens, you would never have seen it coming.
Chewie. We're home.
What is it? What was his point right there?
I think he's trying to say that if Rey actually killed Han, that Han would not have seen it coming. Which,
of course, Rey could have killed him. She's a Mary Sue. She can kill anyone.
Yeah, but the Mary
didn't
Sue
happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen that way. And the Mary Sue would not just indiscriminately kill people. It was always in the service of something good, or what have you. So this is a very strange argument. Why would Rey want to kill random people? I don't. It's a very, very odd argument to make in service of Han being a good character or being written well. To kill him off, it's just weird. I mean, Rey would be interesting that way. She'd actually be like, yeah, I kill people who take my stuff. It's like, what? Okay.
Luke, on the other hand, has an ending that not only serves this story, but his character as a whole.
Wait, didn't she do this in the next movie where she accidentally kills Chewbacca but didn't really kill Chewbacca?
Yeah.
Good point, yeah. This came up before that happened, to be fair, but yeah, he's ignoring a lot of that, and I guarantee he does not like The Rise of Skywalker because no one who likes The Last Jedi does.
Yeah, because Last Jedi was terrible. It was probably the worst movie ever created. And Leia dies in the next movie too. She doesn't die in any heroic manner. She just kind of walks off and lays down and dies out of nowhere.
Where it's like she does it for like the smallest reason to just briefly distract Kylo to save her life, and then she dies. It's like that's it. That's how Leia dies.
At least Luke kind of like projected himself across the universe and kind of distracted the First Order. Leia just kind of lies down somewhere and then dies in the hopes of distracting Kylo a little bit. They treat her almost worse than Luke did.
Ooh, it's one of the most unceremonious deaths you could possibly imagine for her character. It's like
she's not even doing anything. She just walks off and dies. It's ridiculous.
You think that Abrams would have learned a little bit about character deaths of beloved characters? It's like, no, just kill him off. Exit stage right. Yeah, you're gone. It's all right.
She almost dies off screen. It's so close to her just dying off screen. But
shouldn't have had her in the movie. They really should not have used those old footage.
It should have had her retire or something. To say she should somewhere else.
Oh yeah, she just gives up. It's like, to hell with all this fighting. Gonna go on a mountain and just drink some water or something.
Maybe have her be a prisoner or something. I don't know.
I did hear a funny thing about something about Rey had to go back to Tatooine to bury something, and I was like, wait, bury something from Leia? Leia wasn't even from Tatooine. Why would she need to?
She buries. She gets the lightsaber of because Leia has a lightsaber now.
Yeah,
she never wields it. She gets a lightsaber. She gets Anakin's / Luke's lightsaber and Leia's lightsaber, and she buries them on the Lars farm, which she takes over. And she gets her own lightsaber, which is yellow somehow.
Okay, but Leia, I think wasn't Leia on Tatooine? She was chained up as a slave by Jabba. Like that's probably
that
not
was the time she was on Tatooine.
Probably don't want to remember that if your spirit is wandering. It's like, yeah, go back to the place where you were incarcerated. It's like, okay.
That's what she buries though. She buries the lightsabers, and she doesn't even go to the hard work of digging a hole. She uses, I guess, force bury.
Force bury.
Yeah, she just buries them with the force.
Dig the holes with my mind. Okay, that's great.
After beginning a new Jedi temple, he began to lose Ben to the dark side. Based on what Leia...
Does that make any sense? After building a new Jedi temple, my students...
This is what people do. They just... Go on.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It's like, by the way, I'm going to help people go to the light side, but now they're actually going to the dark side. It's like, wait, how?
People who defend The Last Jedi will describe this just on face value. They'll say, this happened, and then you're like, I have questions about that. None of that makes any sense. And it's like, it makes sense if you just say it as the movie presents it, because the movie just presents it in just a contextless way. It's like, here you go. This is how this works now. And it's like, that does not make any sense.
I'm going to call the fire department to put out the fire. Oh, they're making the fire worse. It's like, wait, no.
Don't ask questions. Just consume. Consume.
Exactly.
It says,
There's too much Vader in him.
That's why I wanted him to train with Luke.
Luke must have known the danger from the beginning and would have been trying everything he could to prevent it up until that point.
So sneaking up on him at night and about to murder him is like the best thing he could have done? What was he doing all this time with Kylo? Like, what was going on?
By train, that means like take him out Italian style. Just kill him.
While he sleeps.
Don't leave just take the cannoli.
All the morning training sessions, those are like Jedi stuff. But at night, it's like, yeah, you're gonna die.
Maybe Luke just kills one random student each night.
Every night, it's like, yeah, you gotta die.
And it was beyond what I ever imagined.
With all else failed, Luke is faced with the choice of killing him to prevent history from repeating.
No. What do you mean with all else failed? He could just talk to him. Like, we don't know anything about how he got to this point. Like, what do you mean with all else failed?
Yeah.
That's what the film paints it as, but that is not how things worked. He had a lot of options.
Yeah, let's assume that Luke does in fact creep on all his students and scans their aura or whatever to find out whether they're good or bad. And then he goes, oh, this person's going to grow up to be evil. Oh, I better prevent that from happening. I'll better talk to him in the morning at 8 o'clock. Okay, I got some time on my schedule tomorrow morning. Great, okay. And then I'll talk to Kylo, 8:30. Okay, let's do it. Could have done lots of things. But in some brain, in some way, this master had an instinct to pull out his weapon, which I don't even know why he was carrying it around.
Everyone pulls out lightsabers now, like Darth Maul. Darth Maul.
Oh yeah, Darth Maul.
Solo just stands up, just ignites his lightsaber, and I guess sits back down.
I like
Everyone
turning
just
it on.
ignites their lightsabers for no reason.
It's like playing with your cell phone, right? It's just like I gotta play with it. Just gotta keep touching something.
Makes you feel cool. This one was trade on. Maybe he has OCD. I don't know.
Creeping around at night, pulling out a weapon. Yeah, why not?
All their options were exhausted.
It's like these writers forget about the Force. Like they always talk about the Force can do this and that and all this nonsense that the Force could never do before. But when it comes to battle, they almost forget about the Force every once in a while. Like they always come out with lightsabers all of a sudden. People can use the Force. You don't need a lightsaber to fight if you're a Jedi. You can use the Force. I mean, if you looked at that, I know the best example was actually not probably in the movie, but it's like a example of Mace Windu where he crushes an entire droid army.
Oh, I saw
one
that.
of those Tartakovsky. Yeah, people, you can use the Force. Okay, these modern writers don't know how to write these battles where they use the Force. It's just immediately go to the lightsaber. So Luke Skywalker could have Force choked his nephew to death. It would have been gruesome, but same result. He's going to stab him to death with a lightsaber, or he could just Force choke him, which would be more definitive.
And why did he actually stop Kylo with the Force? It's like, Kylo, stop, just chill out, man, stop. Like Force push him, not, like whatever. He's a freaking master. He can do anything. He's like, no, I'm going to stand there like a little possum while he blows.
Always trying to kill his students to stop his lightsaber. They do that in the third movie, by the way. They stop each other's lightsaber with the Force. Why couldn't Luke do that? Like, hey, settle down, Kylo. Okay, I'm going to stop your Force lightsaber with my Force, and I'm going to lift you up in the air like Kylo did to Finn. But I guess Luke didn't do that. He kind of stood back and watched Ben Solo murder his entire classroom.
Yeah, it's a bit awkward for the hero of the galaxy to be like, oh no, I can't do the thing I'm amazing at anymore. Oh,
he's like the Willy Wonka of the Force. He's like, oh no, wait, stop! Don't kill my students. Come back.
Darn! Now I failed. Oh, I failed now. Now I have to run away. Oh.
This is one big gigantic conspiracy on Luke Skywalker's part too. He doesn't want to teach anybody. He just want to become a hermit. But he can't really dump all these kids because he's kind of expected to do this. So
yeah, he needs a good excuse.
I need to kill all my people. So kill all my students. Oh no! Stop! Don't kill all my students. Okay, they're all dead. I guess I can go off and live my bachelor lifestyle that I always wanted to live.
That would explain a few things, but it's still pretty stupid.
It's where I think the film lost people forever. People say this scene destroys Luke's character because he was always trying to save his friends, but that's exactly what this moment is about.
Really?
That almost looks like a comedic cut. He's like, "What's going on?" And then Luke Skywalker just standing over him with a lightsaber with that look on his face. It's like a Saturday Night Live skit.
I'm going to save my friends by what? Murdering my nephew. But he doesn't actually want to murder his nephew. It's a fleeting moment, and then it goes away, and all he feels is shame. So, no, he wasn't actually trying to protect his friends. He was acting on instinct, as he told us he was.
And every defender of TLJ will tell you that like him doing this was wrong, and that's why he regrets it. He's implying that this was what he was trying to do. What he was trying to do was right because he was trying to protect his friends, and it's like this is based on just a vision that he saw in Kylo's head. It's not enough. Like you're like he would not be at this point because of like an instinct. It's not something that he would commit to.
Like, imagine you had the worst vision, like you're reading Kylo's brain or whatever. He's like, okay, he's dreaming about killing. Like, he's having a dream. Like, should happen a lot if you're a Jedi dude or a Jedi master and you can just sense people's thoughts. It's like, oh, he's having a bad dream. Hey, maybe he's influenced by the dark side. Okay, I'm going to talk to him about that. It's like a common occurrence. But he sees, or at least what Nevell thinks he sees, is like this horrible future, which is just so amazingly bad. There's no other option aside from pulling out a lightsaber and then instantly regretting it and then going, oops, sorry, Kylo. Oh no, what did I do? Oh, you did actually nothing. You just got scared, Luke. That's all. You're not stupid, right? You're a master of your emotions, right? Because you're a Jedi master and you understand these things because you've been training for your entire life, right? Right? Like that's what should have happened, but it didn't. So
destruction and pain and death at the end of everything I love because of what he will become.
Had he gone through with it, he could have saved his Jedi and everyone else Kylo Ren killed. But Luke didn't go through with it because it's not in his character.
Well, that was Kylo turning to the dark side was a direct result of Luke standing in front of him. The Last Jedi makes that very clear. Yeah. None of it would have happened if he had left it on.
According to Kylo,
or I don't know. The film doesn't explain that. Maybe he would have done that.
It's a story that he told. He's like, Luke Skywalker was about to kill me, so I went to the dark side. That's essentially what his explanation was.
Right. Now, honestly, if your uncle, who's also your teacher, is about to murder you, that's a pretty traumatic experience. But, I mean, does that warrant you slaughtering everyone around you? Does that warrant running away and becoming the opposite of your uncle? I don't know. He could have been a really good teacher, But it gives it the context that, oh, the Jedi are just as bad, if not worse, than the Sith, so I'm going to go join the Sith. As opposed to, I'm going to go train myself, I'm going to go steal the texts. Kylo could have done lots of things. He could have done all sorts of things. Start up his own school, talk to his mom. Apparently his mom is very good, too, at the Jedi thing. Could have talked to her, but nope, didn't go to her. Just ran away. So lots of weird
rival school.
Yeah, lots of weird storytelling. It doesn't quite make sense here.
That would have been kind of funny if Kylo didn't turn to the dark side, but he did start a rival school, and it's like a rivalry between his uncle and Ben Solo. It's like it's kind of like that one university and another university. They have that good old rivalry where they steal each other's mascots and stuff. I think pretty interesting. I could watch a series on that.
As long as they don't use lightsabers all the time, that'd be kind of ridiculous. Everyone's just
Like,
losing limbs. What the hell?
Imagine a Star Wars Animal House. It's kind of like something like that.
Oh dear, that would be bad. That would be very bad. You want to subvert our expectations of the Jedi? Yeah, I think post-secondary education with colleges of actually Sith would be cool. That would work with the Sith, just not the Jedi. Like a Teen Titans Sith, right? Like kind of this ridiculous, stupid, over the top, comical thing. That would work.
Shut up. And I was left with shame.
Once again, he falters before ultimately doing the right thing.
But he didn't do the right thing. He cowered away in fear for 30 years. That's not the Luke we know. You see, if you're going to use Luke as we saw him at the end of episode 6, then that's what you have to use. And that's what is not shown to us. So that's why we call him Jake.
His students finally awakens him to the truth, that the Jedi were failures.
If you strip away the myth and look at their deeds, the legacy of the Jedi is failure. At the height of their powers, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise, create...
Yeah, but how are they failures? Like, what is their role? What is he? What are they?
I hate this dialogue.
Yeah,
people say that it's like this is so nuanced and like he's correct, and it's like no, this is like this is surface level and just written to sound intellectual, but it strips away everything about the prequels, which like makes them unique.
Yeah, the whole point of the Jedi is to find balance, is to be peaceful, and to not start wars, never give in to your emotions, etc., etc. There is no standard like end goal to that. That's just a lifestyle. You're just keeping the peace, being friendly, negotiations, being diplomatic. That's about it. Everything else, like with the Force, is kind of like a part of their weird ways. It's part of their lifestyle. That's it. There's no like, okay, we have to build like 5 temples this year. We're going to slaughter the Sith over in that part of the galaxy, and then we're going to start a trade consortium deal. It's like, no, they have none of these things. All they do is meditate and talk and train. That's their goal. There's nothing else that they do. If Luke wants to react to that and say, this is stupid, you're not doing anything, I'm going to start my own school, I'm going to call it Luke's version of the Jedi, great, okay. But there's no context for that. There's no explanation as to say, here is Jedi, here is my Jedi. This is what I'm doing differently. It's just he started a school and it didn't work out. So therefore I'm also a failure? Okay. I guess. I mean that is failure. You did screw up.
the Empire and wipe them out.
Luke believed wholeheartedly in an idealized version of them based on a few mere sentences from Obi-Wan and Yoda.
No, he didn't. He literally started his own school. He said, okay, I'm going to do my own thing now. And he started his own school.
So I was about to say, like, Luke inside of Return of the Jedi, he does not have many of the prominent, like, traits of the Jedi. Like, the Jedi were trained to be, like, detached, to be emotionally disconnected from other people. Like, they weren't allowed to have relationships. Like, he does not follow the Jedi way. He made his own rules.
Yeah, and plus we also learned that he never read the books. So it's like, yeah, that's right. He's not a Jedi in the traditional sense. He's his own person, but he's very much a heroic figure that he would have the right virtues that a Jedi could possibly have, just not in the same flavor, not in the same style. So he'd still seek peace, he'd still seek harmony. he would just have a more blunt way of going about that process. Maybe he'd be a little more irrational, going to anger, as every single Jedi is not a carbon copy of the next. They have their own reactions. Every Jedi is not perfect, and that's great. That's fine. That's what you want. You want personality in your warrior monks, in your mystical aspects that can read minds and levitate stuff. Great, cool. We saw that in all sorts of series. Clone Wars, the books, video games, all sorts of wonderful stories. With Luke, we have no idea. We have no context. We don't know what kind of master he was. We don't know if there were any other teachers there. We don't know how he taught his students. We don't know what he taught his students. Like, there's nothing. And we need something. We need like a 2-minute flashback of him saying stuff and going, oh, there's Luke being a Jedi, or trying to be a Jedi, and he's doing it right, or he's doing it wrong, or he's doing it his way. That would have been something. And we say, that's what he believes in. This is what he's teaching. Even if it's like, levitating rocks or whatever.
He assumed that restoring their order would make things right again.
No, he didn't. There's literally no right or wrong. There's no context for what is bad that has to be fixed. It's a flashback. There's nothing else.
Exactly.
Joseph Campbell wrote that the hero's conflict can't be solved by a return to the good old days, that the rebirth of the old thing will only serve to perpetuate the cycle. Luke and Leia both tried to resurrect...
But the hero's journey is a cycle where they return to the threshold. Yeah. They come
you
back
return,
to where
that's,
they
that's
started.
literally part of it.
Yeah,
that's why it's a circle.
Exactly.
That's why it's a cycle.
You have to come back, or else you'll stay...
Go back to
yeah. You never progress. You just stay in that eternal dip where you're constantly looking for yourself. You have to come back. The return to normalcy.
Yeah.
To the old thing, and it went badly right away this time. Luke has failed before, but this time it's not just him paying the price. The entire galaxy is suffering the result of his actions.
So?
He comes to see that maybe getting all these light side users together
God.
invites the dark side to destroy them. The Jedi Order was a fatally flawed idea.
No, it wasn't. The Jedi Order was fine. It was fine before. It was fine now. The problem was Luke got weird for some reason. Then no one explains that. How we got weird.
And that's my biggest problem with the whole, him describing the Jedi as bad. It's like, why didn't you make them better? Why didn't you redefine what a Jedi means if you thought that, they failed all these times for these reasons? You're like, why didn't you learn from those failures? It's Luke,
Luke is the kind of character.
It's like he says they're a lost cause.
Yeah, he would have found a solution, or tried to find a solution. He wouldn't have run away. That's not the Luke. It makes no sense. That's why we call him Jake. Jake would do this. Jake would run away and go, frickin' hell, I don't like the Jedi. They suck. Fine, great. That's Jake. Luke would be like, oh crap, I screwed up. How do I fix this?
Luke became the guy who ran away, who just gave up on his problems when they presented themselves. He didn't try to make them better. He didn't try to build up something new or correct himself like he learned to do during his training. Make mistakes and learn something new, and then try something new. No, he just this version of Luke Skywalker he just gives up. He surrenders.
Yeah, over one fleeting moment. It's such a bizarre thing. I know that Luke is not some perfect Jedi, but he's old. He's been doing this for a while. He's seen a lot of stuff. He's been through a heck of a lot worse than pulling a lightsaber on his nephew at nighttime, even though it's kind of creepy and weird. But he's been through a heck of a lot. I honestly don't think that would have changed him that much, at least the way it was presented to us. It would be like, oh my God, what have I done? What do I do? And then he has like a moment to reflect on it. Oh, I better go chase after him. Oh, I better go tell Leia. Oh, I better go do this or that. Like he'd have a plan. He wouldn't just sit there and go, crap. Well, that's life. Time to run away. It makes no sense.
Letting it die out will cause the Force to find a new way that may succeed where the Jedi failed.
No.
To say that if the Jedi die, the light dies is vanity. Can you feel that?
Yes, fine.
Luke knows his allies won't accept his decision, which is why he leaves them.
No.
He's not giving up on them. He's helping them.
He's inventing all of this, okay, guys? This doesn't actually happen.
Yeah, that's how you defend the Last Jedi. It's standard and how you defend the Last Jedi. You just you make stuff up.
Yeah, you know how you have a straw man? This is like a straw bridge. He's like trying to connect things. You see it this way, and you actually think if this is what actually happened, then it's okay. It's like, yeah.
And this is Just Right propagates this whole thing. Like, just everyone has their own interpretation. Everyone sees things different ways. So, like, you do not have accurate references for all of this. Like, you're making this stuff up, and you're not putting in the legwork. You're just saying things work this way because Luke believed this way.
Yeah,
but there's nothing in the film to support that.
It's like there's a hole in a plot, and you're like, oh, well, if this hole was in the plot, that means someone else filled in the hole, but we never saw it. And you're like, wait a second, that's not how stories work. Okay,
it's how you get the whole defense of that one fat alien. I forgot his name again, but that one fat alien who Rey sold scraps to in the first movie because his hand was in shot when she was a little girl. That is obviously solidly implying that he took her in, raised her, and taught her everything she knows, and therefore she's not a Mary Sue because his hand was in frame. That was it.
That is a really, really bad
it's a huge stretch.
Holy crap.
We don't even know if it's him. It could be another alien who's just as fat and ugly as he is, but different, a different one.
Is that really an argument? Come on, that's pretty stupid.
It's an argument that people have tossed at me several times. It's ridiculous every single time they do it.
Yeah, no. These are people on Twitter that have too much time on their hands, I think.
They really want The Last Jedi to be good, but it isn't. It's a crime against cinema.
The only way he thinks he can. It's a callback to his failure in Empire Strikes Back.
The only way he thinks he can is by running away? Are you serious?
That sounds like Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, he didn't run away inside of The Empire Strikes Back. He was going to protect his friends. That's
the guy who jumped into certain death. Yoda told him, if you go, you're probably going to die. And he went anyway. That guy was the guy who ran away.
There's a burning house. It's like, I'm going to either run away from the burning house or run at the burning house. So in the previous movie, we see Luke running into all these burning houses and saving the galaxy. And in this instance, the house isn't even on fire yet. It's a literal hut. He's like, oh, now the house is on fire. I wake up, everything's ashes. Well, I guess I have nothing to run towards. I may as well run the opposite direction and call it a life. Like, it's just very odd, awkward, and losing a lot of context. Just everything is up in the air. Like, why are you now afraid? Why can't you talk to someone? Why can't you talk to Leia? Ugh.
Showing that Luke now has the maturity to do the difficult thing and not act on impulse. The new trilogy seems to be heading towards the idea that there needs to be a more permanent solution to the conflict. And this is why I don't agree with the people who say that the new films ruined Return of the Jedi's happy ending.
What permanent solution to the conflict? What are you talking about? What conflict? Is this still the balance bullshit? That it's like there's a chart with all this light people?
Balance nonsense. It's disgusting. This is a horrible, horrible argument. The balance stuff. It's dumb.
Like, we got that Freddie Prinze Jr. crap, which is just worse.
That was the worst. That was the worst thing. Not just for Star Wars. That was the worst thing you could ever even contemplate as any sort of writer who wants to produce any sort of work that would be taken in any sort of way, respectably and seriously.
Right. So this is his version of the balance, I guess, that he's trying to say. Well, the new series is now going to solve this problem permanently. It's like, when was this ever mentioned in the first movie or the second movie? Where? Who talked about this? This headcanon is really diabolical. It really screws around.
The Last Jedi is good because of headcanon. That's basically their only defense.
It's also bad because of headcanon. You can say anything about headcanon. It's a great cookbook when you watch The Last Jedi. It teaches you how to make space pastry from burning leaves. I have no idea. I just invent crap because why not? Ugh.
Luke's Jedi Order was always doomed to be undone by the cycle of light and dark repeating again.
Why? How? Who? When? Where? What are you talking about? The cycle.
He's showing visuals. He's showing like the visual of an overhead shot of people walking, of soldiers walking in and following Kylo Ren. Therefore, it's the same thing. It's like this is the whole thing. Remove the context. That makes the Last Jedi good.
There's a cycle of people dying. Okay, it's called life, but what are you talking about in regards to Luke losing his school? So Luke was the cause of his own destruction? Is that a balance? Like, what is he talking about? How is it a cycle? Isn't that a psychological issue that Luke caused the problem, thus he could not change in some weird way? Not some external force of the dark trying to change. Unless Luke was really a really bad teacher. Like, he was really bad. And
but he's the best, though. I mean, Rey came to Luke for training. He said, sit on a rock, breathe a couple of times, and she was suddenly able to break the earth and lift half a mountain. He's the best mentor who's ever lived.
Yeah, no, it's really Luke that gave her a pep talk about breathing. Now that you can breathe, you can move a mountain. Oh, really?
That's how it works. It's because Luke is so awesome at being a mentor.
And that's exactly what Luke is trying to stop.
Yeah, of course.
And this is where themes become incredibly important to the...
Oh no, the themes! Oh no! We can stop right now. This is going to take all night, guys. The themes are upon us. I think we should stop. 12:16. Okay, I'm going to remember that time. Yeah, I think themes are a whole other... I can't even remember what this guy said about themes, but it's going to take a while to pick apart the subjective interpretation of what... Oh my God! If he starts talking about wombs, I think we're going to...
themes and symbolism. This is going to take a long time.
Yeah. So
the Last Jedi, I gave the Last Jedi like 0 wombs out of 10. The Rise of Skywalker is about 1 or 2 wombs out of 10.
Wow, that's more wombs than I would expect from you, at least, sir. I think we were all wombed out the last month. But no one gets that joke. Just watch our previous videos on Wit and Folly. Dear Lord, what a mess.
The throne womb scene.
The sexiest part of Star Wars. Because it's red.
Star Wars. It's red. There's a lot of symbols in that scene. They just don't all fit together. It's like, okay, this represents rain or something. This is passion. This is I don't know, sexual intercourse and orgasms. And I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff she just tosses in there. It's apparently in that scene.
Yeah, but those were fake wombs. Apparently, no, that was before the fake wombs. I can't remember
the fake wombs come after that. After that is the attack on that one planet which has like 3 or 4 additional wombs. Like that. And some of them are fake. They're fake wombs.
Yeah, I think we counted 5 or 6. It was hard to follow. Yeah. Wow. Okay, guys. Well, thanks so much for chilling with us. Southpaw had to leave. We're probably going to do this again as soon as we can. Hopefully the weekend. I don't know what your schedules are like, guys. But
I should be good this weekend.
Yeah, enjoy your tomorrow. I don't want to take your New Year's away from you, so you do whatever you like. Read a book. Watch a movie that's not Last Jedi, please. Watch something else.
I did. I watched. I got like the cartoon Hobbit, and I got Dune, just to cleanse my palate.
Wow, those are great. Those are great options. I have the cartoon Hobbit.
Hobbit's fun.
Yeah, great music in that one. And Frank Hebert's 1979 was it or 78? The original.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I'm still surprised that got turned into a movie. My brain just obviously it wasn't the best interpretation, but my God.
No, it was not. It's so many problems with the movie, but it's still enjoyable. If you just, I guess, it's still. I'll just say it's still enjoyable.
Yes,
yeah, it's still enjoyable.
It is an interesting. Frank Hebert, the Dune series is just amazing. It's one of those sci-fi classics that you have to. If you're a diehard sci-fi fan, you have to read that. But man, I don't know about the TV series. That was a bit better, a bit clearer, a bit bigger, a bit longer, but doesn't really compare.
Yeah, I got the David Lynch Dune. That is the one I got.
Right. Yeah, that's the original. So, trying to think of other good.
I really like the fact that they have the you get to hear what they're thinking in whispers. So they get into a conversation, and he goes, "I think that's cool," or something like that. So that was kind of annoying. That was one of the problems I had.
They screw.
It's still good.
They screw up the weirding way a bit with the Fremen and their weapons. It's like that's not in the books. I'm quite sure that's not in the books. Yeah, okay. I don't remember that in the books at all. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in that. Hey, you got Patrick Stewart in there.
Patrick Stewart was amazing in every scene he's in.
It's just like, wow, he's really playing this as far as he can take it. He's just going with it.
It's Patrick Stewart. It's kind of like Picard entered the Dune series. It's pretty interesting.
It's kind of like, is this guy a giant geek? Like, was he always this sort of in this sci-fi
He
vibe?
Is. Patrick Stewart is a giant geek. He is.
Yeah,
that's what's kind of cool about him.
Shakespearean acting just sort of shows through everything he does. It's kind of cool. So definitely catch. I don't even think it's past few weeks. There's all been sorts of classic movies shown for Christmas time, but. Yeah, I'd recommend that. I always enjoyed The Fifth Element. I don't think that's playing. But another space opera that's just fun. It's a popcorn movie. Don't think about it too much. Entertaining.
The Fifth Element is amazing. Everyone should watch it.
It's just...
especially
film,
especially for... what's his name?
Leilu Multipass? What? Or...
Bruce
Willis.
Bruce Willis and... He was in Rush Hour.
Chris Rock.
Chris Tucker.
Wait,
Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
Chris Tucker. His role in that movie, that was fantastic.
Oh, he's
Ruby Rod.
Yeah.
Ruby Rod. Everything was great. It's a great movie. Of course, it's great because it's made by a great director, Luc Besson, which unfortunately he's kind of, I guess, fallen out of favor in recent years. But he's produced some excellent stuff, especially La Femme Nikita.
Oh wow. That's even the TV show was great. I think that was fantastic. Anyway, guys, lots of options aside from The Last Jedi. You're going to get your fill next time we meet, hopefully on the weekend, depending on Southpaw and others. But thanks for joining us. Have a great and happy New Year, and we'll see you in the New Year. Good night, guys.